Hey, welcome back to Metroball Grid. My name is Andre. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's currently May 2nd, 2025. We've been off for a week, mind you, not playing Marvel Champions. I've taken, it's now been 2 weeks off since I played Marvel Champions, if I'm not mistaken. I definitely missed it. For those who don't know, I have another YouTube channel in which I make content for this fantastic game called Android Netrunner. It's a card game that's been going on since, well, technically the 90s, but functionally since 2012. And they just had a new set drop last week. So we've been streaming like a whole week straight, full-time streamer gig, and it's been a lot of fun. And now it's our first Friday off in a minute, and so we're going to be playing some Marvel Champions, as we generally do on Fridays. Now, if I'm not mistaken, today is going to be a bit of a quieter Friday in general on the basis that it is, what's it called? Con of Heroes? Which is like the community-run Marvel Champions convention that happens every year at the Game Center in Minnesota, the Game Center, excuse me, and that is May 2nd to May 4th, I think. So there might be a lot of folks who are into Marvel Champions that are not here because they're out having fun in Minnesota. If that's the case, hopefully you had the best. I would love to hear how the convention is. I've never been, but I have been to the Game Center a handful of times, mostly again for Netrunner stuff back in the day when FFG was doing that. Regardless, we got a couple hours this afternoon. We're going to just play some Marvel Champions. Today, we're playing Groot. We're playing Justice Groot, which is a deck that I haven't tested yet. I put together. It's more of a theme deck, and I'll run through the deck to show you what exactly it is. We're going to be playing through the Mutant Genesis campaign, or as far through it as we can get. I think we're going to get through 1, 2, or maybe 3 scenarios today. We are kind of like time capped at like 5:30 that we have to call this stream because I have another recording to do at like 7:30 this night. So we're going to be pretty busy today doing video content and not stressing our voice out too much. Now this is Groot. Groot came out in the, I don't have the box on hand right now, but the Guardians of the Galaxy Marvel Champions box. It was the second deluxe box to come out, and it was kind of a pretty maligned box. The first box that came out is Rise of Red Skull, which we've played in entirety on the channel before, and I really like that box. I think as the first product, it's really quite good, and it is the first time they made a sort of like campaign mode, as soft as it is compared to something like Arkham Horror. It does have connected scenarios in which your decisions in scenario 1 impact all the way to scenario 5, and that's like kind of neat. However, the feedback from my understanding, and I didn't play Marvel Champions back in the day, was that that box was too easy. And it is a relatively easy box compared to even the modern stuff in terms of difficulty. And while the cool thing with Marvel Champions is you can always make the difficulty more difficult if you want to, and you set your mind to it. Yeah, that was the feedback. This box is too easy. We want more of a challenge. And then Guardians of the Galaxy came out as a second box, and oh my god, is it hard. It is on standard incredibly difficult. It is also very punishing, and there's a lot of scenarios which kind of mimic a lot of the design and balance that I think I've seen in things like Lord of the Rings, the card game, where if you don't tune your deck or build your deck with one of the scenarios, each scenario specifically in mind, you might be in a really bad spot. I think there's some frustrating balance stuff. I think the Collector, for instance, is just like impossible task for certain heroes. I think Nebula is just really punishing and requires you to sink resources and snowballs out of control. And then, of course, Ronan, who has been since officially errated to make Ronan even easier, is a very, very, very hard final boss that can just swing twice for like 11 damage each, and you can just lose. My partner and I, when we got the Guardians of the Galaxy box, we sat down, we played it on campaign mode on standard. She was playing Rocket Raccoon and I was playing Groot, and we had to play multiple scenarios multiple times to get to the final ending. We did it, and it was actually really fun. The fact that we had to like, oh, we lost, we wiped. What did we learn? Okay, we'll take that strategy in mind and going back and be like, okay, now we have to fight Nebula again, and you focus on this, I'll focus on this. And it was actually really fun, and we tuned the decks. We generally played something close to the precons, which aren't fantastic, but as the more we played, the more the decks got better, and it was a worthy challenge, and it's actually like a really good memory of playing Marvel Champions, in which we had to like sit down and like really solve this problem. Since then, the feedback from that box was like, okay, not that hard, please. We want hard, but not that hard. And so things have definitely toned back a bit. But Groot is a hero that I think also, like, alongside the difficulty of the box, didn't get a lot of attention because Groot also seems like kind of not very powerful, maybe a bit half-baked. The short of the long is, when I also played Groot, mind you, back when we were beating Guardians of the Galaxy box, I got a lot of rules wrong. And I think there's a lot of unintuitive things that happen with Groot, and then a bunch of the cards that come inside the box alongside Groot, because understanding the priority of forced interrupts and status cards and hero interrupts and hero responses, all these sort of things actually matter. The idea is that with Groot, if you have a toughness, can you use the toughness before you use the Groot, the what are they called? The growth counters? What has to go first? Can you use an interrupt before a forced interrupt? And we'll learn through all that sort of stuff. I don't think it's going to be too complicated. I think a lot of that has settled down now, but I have no doubt the first couple times that I played Groot, being less experience with this game, I did a lot of like fundamental rules mistakes that are kind of granular rules mistakes. They're like not obvious rules mistakes, but have a huge impact on how strong Groot can possibly be. On that note, let's talk about Groot and I'll show you the deck. Let me just move this out of the way and I think we can zoom in and show the cards. Give me 1 second, make sure everything is running. We'll just do a little sanity check. All right, we're good to go. Okay, cool. This is the Groot deck. Again, we just sleeved this up. I haven't played it yet. This is Groot. Groot has this force interrupt that whenever Groot would take any amount of damage, you have to remove an equal amount of growth counters on here. Groot can have up to 10 growth counters, I believe. At that point, it caps out. And the growth counters actually have uses because a lot of the cards care about growth counters or scale based off of growth counters. So it's like this weird kind of feast or famine design where on one side, you want Groot to have 10 counters because then Groot's cards get really powerful. But then also you want to use Groot's counters to not have to functionally block and not take damage. But then you end up in this like weird kind of vicious loop where if Groot has no counters on it because you're getting beat up, Groot doesn't do anything and it's hard to get counters and then none of your payoffs work. So it does feel like inherently a bit feast or famine because if Groot doesn't have counters, Groot is not doing anything and you need the counters, but sometimes you don't have the counters. It's a bit wild. This is the backside of Groot. Oh, give me 1 second. Where's our Cerebro? Here's our Cerebro. Yo, PMK, how's it going? Hope the day's going well. It's been going pretty good so far. We get sat down. We're going to go play some games for a while. Hopefully you're well. This is the alternate side of Groot, the alter ego side. They both are called Groot, which is funny. A couple of the Guardians of the Galaxy characters like Rocket Raccoon and Groot are just Rocket Raccoon and Groot. And you have 4 recovery, only 10 health, which is surprisingly low for a character you think would be a bit more tanky. That entirely being said is that Groot will have extra 10 health with growth counters. But Groot has an action to place up to 2 counters on Groot to a maximum of 10 and limit once per round. I'm pretty sure the maximum of 10 works on both sides of Groot. It doesn't specifically say on the other side of Groot that you're limited to 10, but I'm pretty sure you're limited to 10. And I think it's only limited by saying all the cards that give you counters say limited up to 10. I think so. I don't think the cards actually say it. The cards that give you counters. Now, this is a really good alter ego ability. And as you'll know, a lot of the cards you'll see in a second, as you'll find out, really care about the amount of counters you have. And so this is one of the easiest ways to get counters. The problem is if you're playing like a protection deck and Groot, mind you, has a 1, 2, 3 stat line, so you're kind of really want to be blocking more often than not, is that this is how you can easily get counters. You have a really good alter ego card that also gives you counters. But if you're a defense deck, you're not spending a lot of time in alter ego. And while that will change with some of the upcoming packs, and notably we do not have Silk or Shuri here in Canada yet, we do want to flip down to alter ego as much as possible because this +2 counters is really, really good. If we can just float at 10 counters, some of our cards get busted. We have 10 damage, 10 thwarting. We have a lot of like really wild cards. Now, the thing is, that's why we're playing Justice, because Justice has a lot of confused cards, so we can hopefully, especially on solo, jump down to alter ego and keep growth spurting because we're going to really need those counters. Hey, Brennan, it's the space. I wish the text for Groot was I am Groot with a lot of pictures to spell out the abilities. Brandon, I don't know if you're walking right into the joke, but so many of the cards in this deck are just called I am Groot with different amounts of yelling and punctuation. It's all the flavor text is also I am Groot, which is pretty charming. Yo, Joel, how's it going? How's your weekend looking? Speaking of I am Groot. Oh, hold on. Speaking of I am Groot, we have 2 copies of 2 different types of I am Groots. One's an attack, one's a thwart. So we have 4 copies of these. Let's see how I sorted these in the Cerebro. I am Groot is the attack. This one costs 2, and it just says deal damage to an enemy equal to the number of growth counters on Groot. I am Groot. Much yelling. This is why you need growth counters. So if you're just blocking and losing all your growth counters and taking damage left and right, like your cards become useless. And this is the problem where a lot of people get frustrated with Groot because it can be feast or famine. Now, very symmetrically, and notably, this card is a superpower. I think all of Groot's cards are largely superpowers. This is also I am Groot, which says remove threat from a scheme equal to the number of growth counters on Groot. Now this card does cost 3, which actually makes it quite expensive. So on average, you want to be removing like 5 or 6 threat, which doesn't always line up when you're playing solo. But this is another card that once we are set up, you can do a lot of work as long as you have all the counters. So these are big payoffs for having a lot of counters. These are the ones that scale with massive counters. We have a whole bunch of cards that scale off of using small amounts of counters, but yeah, that's also really important. 2 copies of, it's called Fruition. Oh, that's a fun name. I love the health overlay. Yay, Poldrix. I'm glad you've been enjoying it. We've added these, I think, like the last time we streamed, and they all work. We can change all the names live. They've been actually really useful. This is Fruition. It's a reasonable card. It is a superpower. It doesn't cost anything. It just says place 2 counters to a maximum of 10. That means we can never get more than 10, but this card is just fine. 2 growth counters, again, means that we functionally healed 2 health if you want to look at it, but largely we just need to keep our counters because they do stuff. We have 2 copies of Root Stomp, actually 3 copies of Root Stomp. So we have a bit more damage in this deck. It says deal 5 damage to an enemy. It's a superpower. If this attack defeats an enemy, you get a growth counter to a maximum of 10. Ideally, you always want that growth counter, but 2 for 5 is honestly not awful. And because it's a superpower, we can make it cheaper. We have 1 copy of We Are Groot, which is a superpower. Groot says, as an action, you can remove up to 4 growth counters to choose that many friendly characters to give each of those characters a tough status card. In theory, spending 1 and a counter for a tough when you're playing solo is not awful, because if you block with the tough, and very notably, this is where like the timing gets really interesting, is that toughness status cards have priority over forced interrupts. It goes constant abilities as the first priority, then it's forced interrupts, and then, constant abilities. After that, you have status cards, and then after that is forced interrupts, which means that if Groot has a tough status card and you get attacked for 7 damage, you're functionally going to be saving a lot of your counters. So Groot is reasonable, scales really well with multiplayer. This was great when I played with my partner. It scales well with allies, but you can remove a bunch of counters. Issue is, if you have tough status cards, you don't want to flip to Alter Ego, and Alter Ego is where you can get a lot of your growth counters back, so it's kind of all over the spot, but not bad. This card, however, is really, really good. One of the big reasons why we want to be an Alter Ego as much as possible. It's a support, cost 1, and you exhaust this when you're Alter Ego to not only get a growth counter, but to draw a card. Which means functionally every cycle that we flip down to Alter Ego, we can get 6 growth counters and 2 cards. Because we can flip down, do our Groot action, we can do the Fertile Ground action, then next turn, Fertile Ground, we can do our Groot action, the growth spurt, and then we're plus 6 counters. This is why we're playing Justice, so we can flip down to Alter Ego and spend as much time growing, because if Groot is not grown, we're going to have some issues. Now we have 3 cards that are all pretty symmetrical here. Actually 4 cards are symmetrical? We have 4 cards that are symmetrical? Why? Oh yeah, I guess we have 4 cards that are symmetrical. They're Entangling Vines, Vine Spikes, Vine Shields, and Lashing Vines. They're all superpowers, and they all cost 1 to play. And they're all different kinds of upgrades that require you to spend a growth counter to have some sort of effect. This kind of reminds me of SPDR that came out a bit later, but the idea is that we can use a growth counter on Entangling Vines that when we thwart, we get +2 thwart, which gives us 3 thwart, which is not bad. We have Vine Spike that says, I believe when we attack, is it Vine Spikes? Why do I not have it? I must have spelled it wrong at some point, so I have to look that up. It's not in Cerebro. But Vine Spikes is symmetrically remove a counter to get +2 attack. That's Vine Spikes. So same idea. That means we attack for 4, as much as our growth counters are valuable. We have Vine Shield, which is +3 defense. So that means we have 6 defense plus growth counters. And technically using a growth counter for +3 block is worth it, because if you take any amount of damage, you lose a growth counter. So always spending 1 for 3 is worth it, unless the attack doesn't break your block on its own. And then finally we have Lashing Vines, which is 1 for 2 to ready. Excuse me, it's 2 to ready Groot, which is a lot. Sometimes that's worth it. If you're getting more counters from other forms, then you have like 10 counters, you might as well ready. But these are all really cheap superpowers, and you want to spend your counters, and that's what Groot does. So Groot's kit, again, kind of feast or famine. If you don't have the counters, you don't functionally do anything, because everything needs the counters. So if you get attacked twice on round 1, so say that you get, you get attacked once, and then you get an encounter card that says the villain attacks again, and you can't block it, and suddenly you're on 0 counters, like you're kind of cooked, which is a really bad problem to be in Groot, because none of your cards really do that much. So you need to protect those counters, which means allies are good. And speaking of allies, let's look at the rest of the deck. Notably, I don't often do this, but this is a theme deck. There's a lot of cards that I find to be staples in any deck I build, just good neutral cards, good cards from any of the factions, and I ignored a lot of those cards. I built a deck that is thematically consistent, which is not something I normally do, but I think this deck actually isn't terrible. And the first thing we're doing is we're playing a whole bunch of Guardian allies. We are a Guardian as in Guardian of the Galaxy, and so we have a whole bunch of these Guardian allies that we can only play when we're a Guardian, and they're not terrible. This is Drax. Drax is 3 for a 1 thwart, 3 attack, 4 health, but it can not attack minions. You have to go straight for the villain, which is fine. We need a bit more damage as a thwarting deck. We have Martin X. Martin X is a bit cheaper, only comes in for 2 if you have the Guardian trait, and just a 1/1/4. Not amazing stats, but we'll play that for 2, no problem. And we have some other synergies when we play Guardian characters. Speaking of Guardian characters, we have our friend Rocket Raccoon. This is Rocket Raccoon Basic, who comes in for 3 and gets +3 attack if you want to when attacking a minion, and that attack gets overkill, which is really good at dealing with minions, the same way that Drax can't deal with minions. And then finally we have Gamora, and Gamora is also really good because Gamora, whenever she attacks or thwarts, we get discard cards from the top of our deck until we get an event. And not only do we have some 0 cost events that are really nice to play, but all our events are superpowers, which means we can fire our deft focus every turn, and that's also quite good, just a card draw a turn. All of these are neutral, which is quite nice, and they all cost 3 to 2, and we'll have some good resource cards that will help pay for these, but that is the basis of our Guardians. And then we have 2 Guardians from the Justice faction. We have Eros that can confuse minions, which is good because we can flip Alter Ego, and then we have Quasar that has a good attack stat, and Quasar can do a bit of thwarting extra. When Quasar comes in, we remove threat from a bunch of different schemes, from every scheme, which is not bad. They're all Guardians, which is good because it works a bit with the synergy of our deck, which is nice. But there's one Guardian we didn't play, and maybe we should have, but we didn't play Star-Lord basic. And Star-Lord is like not awful, but I don't feel like we need to play this. I'd rather not, but you can play Star-Lord. Star-Lord's really not bad at all. I find this to be interesting compared to the recent zero cost, what's his name, Grant Ward, who feels a lot like Star-Lord but comes in for free, which is quite nice. All right, other stuff. We're playing some of the Guardian cards. We have Think Fast. This says take 1 damage, confuse the villain. That's really quite nice because we want to be flipping down to Alter Ego to be growing all the time. This card's really cheap. Notably, take 1 damage is not the cost of the effect, and if it was the cost of the effect, we actually couldn't be able to play this card from my understanding, because Groot says when you would take any amount of damage, don't, and that's forced, which means if the cost is to take damage, I'm not sure we can pay the cost if we don't take the damage, so you have to watch out. That damage into cost damage into effect, I'm pretty sure Groot can't play cost damage. I'm only like 80% sure, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I do know for sure Think Fast can just use the Groot counter, the growth counter, and we'll be fine. We're playing 3 copies of Clear the Area because, well, not this, because it's just a really good staple, especially at solo. It removes 2 threat and draws a card, and a lot of times 2 threat is what you're expecting, so that's nice. We have some resources, so we have Energy, Genius, and Strength, but then we're playing 2 copies of The Power in All of Us. I don't play this card all the time. It's very, very good. But this gives you 2 resources, 2 wild resources to play for basic cards, so gray cards. And notably, most of our friends here are all gray, and so a lot of these will come in for only 1 resource, which is pretty good. We have a bunch of other great cards as well, basic cards, but this card's not bad at all. Otherwise, it'll just be a 1 wild resource, which is also kind of flexible. Speaking of great cards, this is our payoff for playing Guardians. We have Nowhere. It increases our ally limit by 1, which might matter, but it says after you play a Guardian ally, you can draw a card. That's actually important because Groot has no resource generator cards. Groot's economy is kind of tough. A lot of heroes have something in their kit that will generate a card or a resource, something like that, and Groot has nothing like that. So we're not playing any of the standard cards that you could play in a deck like this, like Avengers Mansion or Quinn Carrier, because thematically they don't make a lot of sense, but we're using Nowhere and playing our allies to draw cards, and that's why all our allies have the Nowhere trait. I don't think I've ever played Kit. We have Kit 2. Notably, Kit comes in as a basic gray card, and it says we can spend 2 resources to ready a Guardian character. That can be us. That can also be any of our allies. Now, you cannot pay for the Power in All of Us to use Kit as much as it generates 2 resources for a basic card, because it's not paying for the basic card, which means playing it. I wish that would work, because Kit would be a lot better. There's a chance that this card is not actually worth playing. We'll see how much resources we have, but it was a reasonable Guardian synergy card, so we'll see how it works out. Crash Space Stream, one day I will internalize what time these start. Yo, Lucille, it's a bit inconsistent. Usually it's around 2:15, 2:30, at least Eastern. Hopefully you're doing well. Glad you can make it. We have 1 copy of Death Focus because every card we have in the Groot set, I believe, just about is a superpower, so that's 1 resource a turn. Speaking of a resource a turn, we have Sense of Justice. This only hits, I think, 5 or 6 different cards in our deck, so it's not a huge priority, but it's a nice resource generator. And when we have Gamora, we discard until we hit an event, and if we hit like a cheap resource or a cheap thwart event, we might as well play it. 2 copies of Sonic Rifle. Sonic Rifle is a huge staple in a lot of confused-based decks in Justice. It is a bit expensive, and we're not playing the Power of Justice, which generates 2 resources for Justice cards, because we just don't have enough targets. We're only playing 2 copies of this, because we're playing 3 copies of Think Fast, but this is technically 2 Confuses, which is really quite nice, because, again, we want to be an alter ego growing. Speaking of it, this card we probably could cut. I do think we're playing technically 41 cards, technically 42, but we'll get to that in a second. This card is really nice. It just says whenever a character who's confused takes damage, they take an additional damage. That doesn't care where the damage comes from, if it's from us or from our allies, but we do have enough confuse in this deck. This feels like a reasonable slot. Not a card we're going to rush down, but in the mid to late game when we want to really end the boss, this does actually add up a fair bit. Skilled Investigator, because we're playing Justice, it costs 0. We don't have any side schemes. I think we could put 1 side scheme in this deck. I think we would put the Specialization, if any, just to give us a bigger reason to block. The Specialization side scheme has 5 threat on it, and that's not bad, but this will just be okay. There's going to be enough side schemes. We have Under Surveillance because we're playing solo, and Under Surveillance just covers you pretty well so that you don't just lose. Oh my god, there's so many cards with the word under in it. It gives +4 threat to the attached scheme, so the main scheme we won't thread out if we go into Alter Ego. And then finally, we have a copy of Unflappable, which needs a bit of description. We are playing 1 protection card. You're legally not allowed to do this. However, when you play Mutant Genesis, at the beginning of Mutant Genesis, when you play the campaign mode, it tells you that you can pick one of these 4 like dual classes. It's like Defender, Peacekeeper, Brawler, and Leader or something. It can't be Leader. It can't be Leader. It doesn't make any sense. But there's like these 4 of these dual classes that say like pick a class and the class that you're playing. So we picked protection, and we playing Justice. And as a result, we can add one card from the offsuit that we're not playing, the off aspect we're not playing, one event or one upgrade, and you add it to your deck. And then we'll have access to these defender decks because we're technically a defender because we're doing Justice and protection. And so this is the card that we chose. Unflappable makes a lot of sense because if we defend, we're likely not to take damage because not only do we block 3, but we have on top of that, we have growth counters, and then we'll draw a card, which we desperately need a bit more economy into the deck because Groot is not very strong with economy. And that's the idea of the deck. It is untested. We'll give it a shot. I have some idea of what can work and what can't work, but we're just going to try this out and we're going to play across Mutant Genesis. I think we can do 2 or 3 scenarios. That is the part that is maybe a bit not thematic. What is Groot doing here? But I didn't want to play against Guardians of the Galaxy because it's really quite hard. And I'm not sure I like the first scenario is really fun. The second scenario is like, okay, the third scenario is great. Fourth scenario and fifth scenario, not my favorite. So we'll do this instead. I really like Mutant Genesis a lot. And I think Sabretooth is going to be a really fun fight. Let me just shuffle this up and then we'll set things up. We're going to be playing on Expert, mind you, and we're going to be playing with Standard 3. So we have Pursued by the Past. The Nemesis from Groot is actually pretty rough, particularly if you get it in that cursed window where you draw the boost during the villain activation and then your Nemesis activates against you as well, because Fernax, when it attacks you, not only does it do 2 damage, but I do think you have to just like take 2 damage, and that means you start losing counters out of nowhere, and it's really bad. Fernax is kind of rough. I don't know what are the other, I don't remember what the scheme is or the other encounter cards, but Fernax is a problem if Fernax shows up. Building a theme deck is always a fun challenge. Yeah, I think this is a theme deck. It's okay. It's not bad. There's a lot of other like Guardian synergy stuff you can do. I do think a lot of the Guardian synergy is in leadership because there's a whole bunch of Guardian allies and then ways that you can give them upgrades. I think there's a bunch of like Guardian typed upgrades for allies. But yeah, I think Justice makes a fair bit of sense with Groot, so we'll try it out. What I would play otherwise in this deck, like, it's hard not to play Nick Fury, especially when you're playing the Power in All of Us, because Nick Fury is really good. I would definitely play Professor X, because we're a confused-based deck, and we're playing the Power in All of Us, so basic card's good, it turns out. I would probably play either Quinn Carrier or Avengers Mansion, just to get... Or sorry, yeah, Quinn Carrier, the 3-1, that just gives you, reduces the cost of your next card. That's what that's called, right? Not the Jet, not the Wild one, the other one. I think that's mostly it, but there definitely would be some like power cards I play in this deck if I'm not trying to keep on theme, which is fun. It's fun. We'll play on theme a bit. Okay, this we don't need. I can move this aside. This is Sabretooth. Sabretooth is really fun. I'm really into Sabretooth. I remember reading when Sabretooth came out, and at the time I was playing some of the older stuff and catching up, but people were like, oh my god, Sabretooth is so hard. And I kind of get it, because Sabretooth forces you to interact in a slightly different way. I think, are we slightly too zoomed out? Let me know, chat, if we're slightly too zoomed out. It doesn't look that zoomed out. But Sabretooth comes in with 15 health and toughness, but notably, forced response. After Sabretooth activates against you, you discard the top card of the counter deck, and then Sabretooth heals equal to the number of boost icons on that card, which means you're really disincentivized from doing chip damage to Sabretooth. And a lot of players, I think, have chip damage as just part of their game plan. Like, oh, I have an attack, I'll attack for 2. Oh, I'll have an attack, I'll attack for 3. And that just doesn't work against Sabretooth, because the more that Sabretooth attacks, that incidental damage just gets healed out entirely, which really incentivizes you to have a better like sort of higher level plan, a macro plan, where often you'll deal with the threat off of the schemes and then you'll transition to fighting down Sabretooth. Also, Sabretooth is going to be attacking Robert Kelly that we have to protect. Luckily, we're a deck that can block relatively well. This Robert Kelly comes in with 9 health, so we'll just put 9 health on Robert Kelly. And if Robert Kelly dies, we lose. Now, Robert Kelly won't be in our control. It starts underneath, he starts underneath a desk and we have to go rescue him. So find the Senator. I guess I'm setting this up in the wrong way, but this will make sense. Find the Senator. Robert Kelly cannot be healed by player card effects and cannot have upgrades attached. And when defeated, when you clear the scheme, which will start in play, it has 5 threat and a crisis icon, so we can't clear the main scheme until we get rid of, or we rescue Robert Kelly or get rid of this. When defeated, the first player detaches Robert Kelly from the scheme and takes control of Robert Kelly. Robert Kelly does not count towards your ally limit, and then you flip this and you also advance the main scheme to 2A. So part 1 is find the Senator. Part 2 is defend the Senator and deal with Sabretooth. Again, I like these that have an additional loss condition. If Robert Kelly is defeated, we lose the game. Otherwise, Robert Kelly doesn't have any actual text that matters. In fact, like, we can't use them to do cool things. But the text at the bottom here is really important, where Robert Kelly says, forced interrupt. When an enemy resolves an undefended attack against you, you deal that damage to Robert Kelly. Now, this is a forced interrupt, and if I'm not mistaken, forced interrupts, this is where like the timing gets really weird, will happen before, oh, this is also a forced interrupt. So this is when Groot would take any amount of damage. Like, I do not know the timing priority of this. So when Groot would take any amount of damage, remove that many growth counters from him. For each growth counter removed, prevent 1 of that damage. So this is a forced interrupt that cares when you would take damage. And Robert Kelly is a force interrupt that says when an enemy resolves an undefended attack. Resolves. So I think that's when the attack goes off. So technically we'd still have to block, which I'm expecting. I don't think we're going to get into a situation where we're not going to block, but the timing of this sort of stuff actually does get really tricky sometimes. But resolves, I'm pretty sure, is when the attack goes off. We also have Frightened Police. This is something that comes into play if you're playing the campaign mode, which we will. Frightened Police just has 3 threat on it and has another crisis icon, which doesn't really matter. If we have 1, why not have 2? And it says, when defeated, we shuffle the top card of the Future Past deck into the counter deck and flip this card over, and it becomes a pretty good card we can use. Now, the Future Past deck, this is a cool thing. That is the main... I actually really like the campaign mode in Mutant Genesis. There are 5 cards. 2 of them are massive enemies. 3 of them are schemes. 1 of them just makes an ally really, really tough. These are going to be shuffled and set aside. And once per scenario, if we do the cool thing and get the reward, we have to take 1 card from this randomly and put it into the counter deck. If that card doesn't show up in this scenario, it will show up in the next scenario in the campaign. And so in theory, we could have 4 or 5 of these in the deck by the end if we never got them for some reason. But if we do get them and resolve them or defeat them or clear the thing, they will remove themselves from the campaign. So this is cool. So if we want to deal with the Frightened Police, and I think we do, one of these things from the past is going to teleport to our timeline. Sometimes it is a big old Sentinel. Sometimes it is a different problem. But I really like this a lot. Figuring out what's chasing you down is really fun. And sometimes you get towards the end of the campaign and you want to get this out of the deck before completing the campaign. So that is a downside. We'll have this on the side and we'll randomly pull a card from there when we need to. Frightened Police we want to deal with sooner than later. I think we can fit everything here. Sabretooth scenario made me really dislike Robert Kelly, which I love. Yeah, Robert Kelly is an absolute piece of shit in the X-Men canon from my understanding. I think he becomes a mutant or secretly a mutant. I forget what that is about, but yeah, he's meant to be very, very typical shithead, intolerant politician. Stocked by Sabretooth. So we're doing Sabretooth 2 and 3 because we're playing on Expert. We're going to be playing with the 2 modular sets that are recommended. So we have Mystique, which is 5 cards, including Mystique herself. She's very scary. And then Brotherhood, which also has some really tough, Homo Superior is a really rough card, but otherwise there's some pretty chunky minions. These are Toad, Blob, Avalanche, Pyro, which will show up again later in the campaign. Setup, put the Find the Senator into play and Robert Kelly attached to it. We did all that sort of stuff, so no worry about that. The back of this is interesting. It has no limit, so technically it cannot advance, but the issue is forced response. After resolving step 1 of the villain phase, we deal 2 damage to Robert Kelly, or 3 damage instead of their 6th threat here. So as soon as you put the 1 threat per player per round on this, then after that you just hurt Robert Kelly, which means Robert Kelly will be defeated if we don't deal with this sooner than later. That being said, we can entirely ignore this, but sooner than later Robert Kelly will be defeated if we can't find Robert Kelly. We cannot remove threat by Stocked by Sabretooth, so it's not like we can just remove the threat to not hit that sort of 6th threshold, because we have 2 crisis icons on the table. So our priority largely is deal with the Frightened Police, then deal with Find the Senator, and then at that point we're going to have to protect Robert Kelly and go from there. We're going to be playing with Standard 3 and Expert, and then we have our Obligation. We'll just shuffle that up. And again, Sabretooth, whenever Sabretooth attacks, we have to rip a card off the top of the deck, which accelerates the game in terms of getting acceleration icons, but then Sabretooth will heal. Now, Sabretooth only has 15 health, which is not a lot, but the amount of damage you have to functionally do to Sabretooth, we will not often prioritize doing chip damage to Sabretooth. Notably, there are a couple Sabretooth cards in the counter deck that says Sabretooth activates against you, and if Sabretooth is at full health, Sabretooth actually hits harder. So there is some built-in incentives to actually do a bit of chip damage, but more often than not, we're not going to go out of the way to hurt Sabretooth slightly because it'll just get healed back. Okay, we shuffled our deck, and counter card deck is now officially shuffled. This will go into the side, which I have made some mistakes putting my discard pile into the counter deck discard pile. We'll figure that out. And then finally, thing that we do is that there's 5 cards here from the Defender set. This is part of the encounter setup if we're playing campaign mode. These cards, if we do the nice thing, so if we clear Frightened Police at the beginning of the next scenario, we'll also get to do the same little treat, which is we shuffle 5 of these and we get 1 of them randomly, and that will start in play, and it gives us a benefit, usually a once per game effect. Then if we don't use it in this scenario, we won't be able to keep it, so we probably want to use it, otherwise you lose it. And it lines up in theory with Justice meets Protection. We get Swagger. Swagger says, this is Defender Swagger. It's the same as Brawler. Okay, it's fine. So Hero Interrupt Defense. When you make a basic defense, you get +3 defense, ready your hero, and then you remove this from the game. Go ahead, bub, make my day, make our day. So that is just something we have in play. It's also notably an upgrade, so if we get something that forces us to discard an upgrade, we can get rid of this. But we basically have a free +6 defend, like a 6 defend with Groot, and we don't have to exhaust, which is nice. Or technically we ready immediately, which in case of Sabretooth is actually not that bad at all. And with that, I think we already shuffled. I'm just going to do a little quick shuffle and we'll play. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Again, I do think it is Con of Heroes right now, so there's a lot of people in the Marvel Champions community who are out there. Hopefully, if you are, you're having a good time. Maybe you're watching this after, but let me know how it went. All right, our priority is to get some growth counters. We'd love to open up with our garden that allows us to get growth counters when we're in alter ego. From there, clearing Frightened Police on the back, you get the LAPD, and the LAPD actually help you. That Metro PD, excuse me. The Metro Police will help us. It does like 1 damage or 1 threat per turn, which like if we can get that on turn 1, it's really, really good. All right, let's mulligan. So first card, we have Think Fast. Not bad, actually. We can definitely play this on turn 1. Sabretooth doesn't thwart for that hard, and for what it's worth, actually confusing on this part of the game is not super important, because if Sabretooth puts threat unstocked by Sabretooth, it doesn't really matter that much. The thing about also confusing and stunning the villain is that means that Sabretooth will heal less, because Sabretooth will be activating less. This is like a maybe. I am Groot. Awkward. This card doesn't do anything on turn 1, because we don't have growth counters, so this is not something we're going to keep. Oh, this is the other one, actually. So, hold on. This is the one that costs 3, and we'll have at least 2 growth counters. So this is 3 for 2. Yeah, I'm going to put that in the no camp. We are Groot. That's also a no camp. This gives us toughness for growth counters. That's not our priority for setting up. So far, a rough mulligan. Kit, we're not going to keep this at all. It's not very important to get this early. In theory, we can install this and then spend 2 resources to thwart twice. The problem with Groot is you have 1 thwart. No. Clear the area. That is good. This is actually very, very good because we can now clear Frightened Police and draw a card. So that'll be a definite keep. And our last card is no. So we'll get rid of these and then hopefully mulligan into something a bit better. Groot. Hey, Maddie. I was talking about that when we played through all of Guardians of the Galaxy, and we had a really good time as much as it was quite hard. Lashing Vines. Spend 2 growth counters to ready Groot. This is something that we'll want when we'll fully set up. Unfortunately, we have to keep it. We have the Sonic Rifle. Not terrible. I really want Deft Focus or our other setup cards. That's a Fruition. That is 2 growth counters. That's not bad at all. We have Under Surveillance, which we don't really need. And we have an Energy, which at least that's okay. So we still have like 4 resource cards in our deck. So we have to figure out how to play this. And we're off. Let me just move the microphone. I love this box. Rocket is so fun. Rocket is really fun. And they continue to get more and more interesting with more cards coming out. I think the new set that has, I want to say both Shuri and Silk have some really good cards for Rocket. Okay, don't spill coffee on the keyboard, Andre. Priority number 1. We want to fix the Frightened Police. So we're always going to do the Groot action, which is once per turn, place 2 growth counters on Groot, up to 10. So we'll have 2 growth counters on Groot. This is our ready exhaustion card. Now, in Alter Ego, we have no reason to stay down here. In theory, we can stay down and just say, Sabretooth, what are you going to do thwart? And that's actually not unreasonable. The only problem with that is that we're not going to be able to use clear the area, which we kind of want to use. Otherwise, our hand doesn't do that much. But staying down in Alter Ego is like not the worst thing because Sabretooth can't do much besides put more threat, and we don't care about the threat. It's actually kind of unfortunate too that we drew both copies of I Am Groot, because these we want to draw later because they scale based off of how much Groot growth counters we have, and drawing both of those immediately, not the best. Because that means we're not going to have any big threat cards until we cycle our whole deck, because we only have 2 of those. I wish Groot had some recursion, because the cards are like really interesting in different times that you draw them, as opposed to like total feast and famine. All right, we'll flip it with Groot. So Groot only has 1 thwart, which is kind of upsetting. 2 attack doesn't really make sense. 3 defense will be ready if we want to. So we'll thwart for 1 off of the Frightened Police. And then I'm going to just play... I don't think we're going to play Under Surveillance. So I'm going to pitch Under Surveillance for clear the area. And it just says remove 2 threat from a scheme. If this finishes a scheme off, draw a card. And so we'll draw Martin X, which is not bad. We can block with Martin X if we want to. When we clear Frightened Police, it says, when defeated, shuffle the top card of the Future Past deck into the encounter deck and flip this card over. So randomly, I'll do 1 to 5, 1 on left, 5. So now looking at this is going to be one of the 5 cards from the set that gets shuffled into the deck. And then based off of that, we'll find out what it is. They're usually pretty bad. So there is like a downside to getting it as soon as possible, but also the deck is the biggest it is. So the chance of getting it is really, really quite low. Now, when we defeat Frightened Police, we flip it over and we get the Metro PD, which is a good card to get relatively soon because it has a once per turn ability. This is permanent, so it's not going anywhere. It has a once per turn ability to exhaust this to either do a damage or remove a threat. Notably, it's not an attack or it's not a thwart in theory. I don't think that last part matters. So we can always just like work this down one. We could ping the tough off, but I don't really care to do that. So we'll just ping that off for one. What up, man? Good luck. Gonna start at the beginning of double speed and catch up. Jake, you don't have that much. It's actually a good catch up because we explained the whole deck. Wish you the best of luck. We'll see you when you make it to the live. Okay, so we're definitely going to play Fruition, which just puts 2 growth counters on Groot. That's all it does, unfortunately. But now we're at 4 counters, so scaling up. Sabretooth can attack us. We can block for 3. We could block with Martin X, and then we could just play Lashing Vines. That also works. Martin X normally costs 3, but is 1 cheaper if you are a Guardian, which we are. And then we can use Martin X to do a little chump block. But we're probably going to block with Groot himself because we don't really have much to do with 1 attack or 2 thwart on the board. So I think that's the case. I'll play 2 for Martin X. Comes in with 4 health. We'll exhaust Martin X, taking 1 consequential to work on the friend Senator, or find the Senator. And then Sonic Rifle, we'll just play Lashing Vines just for efficiency. This is the card that we can always use in a panic. Notably, this is after Groot uses a basic power, it's a response, which means that if we're worried about having to double block or triple block during a villain phase, we can always use this in a panic. Technically, if you block for 3, you're saving the 2 vine counters or the 2 growth counters if you get attacked. It's an interesting thing to remember. I do think most of the other Groot cards that boost Groot's activations don't last for the turn, they last for the activation. So it's not like we can give Groot +2 attack and then attack twice. That being said, you can do that with some other cards that exist, especially some basic cards. So you can actually make a Groot that wants to activate multiple times with busted stats. And that's it. We'll ready up and draw our hand. So we get Vine Shield. This is our +3 block one. This is not bad at all. We have Fruition, more growth counters, so we'll be on 6 counters ideally. Another Clear the Area, which will line up really well with Senator, that only has 3 on it. We have Entangling Vines, that's +2 thwart, which is actually really good. We definitely want that because we're not good at thwarting. And Deft Focus, that's sick to get this on round 2, because Deft Focus just allows you to generate 1 resource a turn for a superpower, and like almost all the Groot cards are superpowers, besides the ones that cost 0, which are still superpowers, but obviously that doesn't matter. All right, Stock by Sabretooth. We put 1 here. And then it says after put 1 here, we have to do 2 damage to Kelly. Again, if you might have noticed by now, I don't track damage. I track their total health. So Kelly has 7 health left. I probably should figure out how to put a second counter here on the side of the screen that I can add multiple names. It's probably not that hard to do. And so I can track other important things. Now, Sabretooth is attacking for 2 and a card. Let's just pull up Sabretooth's stats. And notably, Sabretooth has a response after the attack. So after Sabretooth activates. So Sabretooth is attacking for 2 and a card. Here we don't have much to do with Groot, so I'm going to block with 3 and exhaust the defense. So Sabretooth is attacking for 2. This has no boost icons, but it does have Nowhere is Safe, which is from Standard 3, which says after this activation, place 1 pursuit counter on Pursued by the Past, which once it has 4 counters, our Nemesis will show up. Now Sabretooth does no damage. Now, notably, our defense stat, this is very important, and it's so easy to play Groot wrong. Our defense stat, I'm going to say this and still do it wrong, reduces the damage. And now the damage we would take, which is technically 0 damage because we blocked 3 on a 2, we would have to remove counters because it's forced based off of the difference. That means we're going to keep our counters. Hopefully we don't get attacked again by Sabretooth because we want to protect our counters. And then finally, Sabretooth says after Sabretooth attacks, you have to do this even if Sabretooth has full health. You discard the top of the deck. This has a boost icon on it, but this is a star. So you don't heal off the stars. You only heal off the regular boost icons. It's nice that this is not going to be the encounter card we're drawing, I suppose. But Sabretooth now heals 0 health. If there's actually icons on that, Sabretooth would heal, but you can't heal higher than Sabretooth's 15 health. Our encounter card is Feral Rage. Uh-oh, it's not great to get too many of these because we're not great at schemes. Feral Rage says, Sabretooth has worked himself into a frenzy in his hunt for Kelly. You need to draw his attention away from the Senator. Crisis in 4. When defeated, Sabretooth attacks the player who defeated the scheme, even if that player is an alter ego. So unfortunately, that's a bit more threatening for us to do, which we're not super comfortable with. Now, the crisis icon doesn't matter because we already have 1 crisis icon. I think we're not going to try and complete Find the Senator. I think we might have to just wait a bit because if we complete Find the Senator, this advances and we don't mind doing 2 more damage to Kelly. We also could like flip to alter ego this round, which might be reasonable too, because if Sabretooth puts threat on Stock by Sabretooth, it doesn't really matter at all. So I think we are going to flip down. It's a bummer because we can't clear the area. We can still play Clear the Area, but we're not going to be drawing a card off of it because the most we can do is 3 threat, which, well, no, we can. We can with Metro PD. Why not? Yeah, that's actually okay. So how do we play our turn? We have some choices. Fruition is +2 counters. We definitely can play Deft Focus. Then we use Deft Focus to play one of these on the table. Now we have the choice between the one that gives us +2 thwart and the one that gives us +3 defense. Now, +2 defense is probably more important. Not that Sabretooth attacks for that much, but this is about defending, so I do think having a Vine Shield is reasonable. So we really have to plan this turn out. We're definitely going to do Metro PD into this. Now, Feral Rage says Sabretooth attacks the player who defeated this. So that means we actually probably don't want to clear it because we can't block ourselves and we don't want to lose our counters. So we probably will just get this low and not play clear the area. Yeah, I think we don't play the clear the area. So hold on, we might. So I'm going to play Fruition to get 2 counters. So we're on 6. I'm going to do base 5 just because we're going to get to 10 anyways. That's that. So then if we play Deft Focus, we can use Deft Focus to play one of these. So we're going to discard one of these. So either we can hold one of these. We can also Lashing Vines for 2 counters to ready Groot, which I don't feel great about that. I think we can just clear the area and then just throw out one of these. So I'd rather have the +3 defense. Actually, losing 2 of our big thwart cards makes me want to go for the thwarting one is my guess. There's not so much thwarting here in Sabretooth because Sabretooth is more about attacking. So if that's the case, I'm going to say that actually we'll keep the defense and throw out the thwarting one and hope that our allies will help us with the thwarting. So I'm going to throw out the one that gives us +2 thwart to play Deft Focus. Deft Focus, really, really good. If I'm not mistaken, this art is obviously Doctor Strange, and I think Doctor Strange deck has like no superpowers in it. Is that correct? Which is like kind of wild. Oh, we still can't do it. Yeah, we still can't do it. So what does it matter? Because if we play Deft Focus into this, then we can't play this. Okay, so then I'll pitch clear the area for Deft Focus. Deft Focus will play to install the next superpower. This is Vine Shield. Vine Shield allows us to remove a counter, flip +3 defense, which is not bad. And notice it's for that attack, so it's not for the whole phase, which would be good. We'll just use Martin X here to work on this slightly. And 3. So we can do 1, 2, 3 next round, so we don't have to do Find the Senator. We're going to flip down with Groot. And in Groot, we'll use Groot's Growth Spurt ability to put 3 counters, or 2 counters. We're at 8. And then we're just going to allow Stalk by Sabretooth. We're going to allow Sabretooth to do a scheme on us. I don't think we care that much. Again, once we defeat Find the Senator, it just advances this scheme, so we don't care about the counters on it. And that's it. We're going to ready up. We're at 8 counters, which means we'll be at 10 right now, which is great. I'm going to hold on to Entangling Vines because we're going to be at 10 counters, and that'll be nice. And then we'll draw up. So we get Clear the Area. Nice. We get I Am Groot, which can do 10 damage. So if we get an ally here, sorry, get a minion, we can hit the minion real hard. We have Root Stomp, which also deals 5 damage, and if it defeats something, we get a growth counter. We get Gamora, which is quite nice. Hopefully we get a resource generator. And I Am Groot. So we have a lot of our damage in our hand. We might be able to do 20 damage to Sabretooth. We'll see how it works. And then it's back to Sabretooth. This goes to 2, which puts 2 damage on Kelly. And then Sabretooth is going to activate. It's going to scheme for 2 and a card. This has a boost icon. If this attack defeats an ally, that doesn't matter. So then we put up 4 here. Notably, Stalked by Sabretooth only gives the damage during step 1 of the phase. So if Sabretooth schemes out, all it does is accelerates how soon that Robert Kelly can get damaged during step 1. So we definitely want to clear this so Robert Kelly doesn't take more damage. Then our encounter card. Oh, Sabretooth heals. So Sabretooth discards 1. So discards Sinister Strike. So Sabretooth would heal 1. And then we get Homo Superior. I think this has Surge. This card's really rough if you draw in the wrong time. Attach a minion, give a tough status card. Otherwise, this gains Surge. This will give them +5 hit points, which is wild. And we have Infiltration. Infiltration. When revealed, shuffle this card into your deck. This card gains Surge. This can be a bit awkward. Obviously, we're not using Opaque Sleeves, which you don't have to. But that means we're going to see when we're drawing this card potentially. I'm going to try my best to avoid it. This shows up a fair bit in the Sinister Motives campaign box too, but I'm going to shuffle 3 more times. 1, 2, 3, and I'll cut without looking. And the top card will be the top card. Okay. There's no way around that. It's just awkward. I don't have Opaque Sleeves. All right. We found a Surge Train Under Fire. Under Fire says reveal the top card of the deck and has Surge. So in theory, Surge happens last. So great. Unrelenting Savage. Alter Ego. Sabretooth schemes. If he has no sustained damage, he gets +1 scheme for this activation. Again, Stalked by Sabretooth only cares when you place that at the beginning, so this doesn't really matter. So we're scheming for 3 and a card because Sabretooth has no damage. Sabretooth schemes for 6 So this goes up to 10, which means we really have to clear stock by Sabretooth now. Also now Sabretooth activated, so we discard a card and heal. So that would be Exhaustion, which is gone, and Sabretooth would heal too. Last card, Blob. Okay, I'm glad that we got a minion because we have a lot of ways to deal with minions in our hand. This is Blob. Comes in with 6 health, and Blob has Guard, and after Blob attacks and damages a character, stun that character. Okay. It's a pretty big chain of events. We got a bunch of cards drawn there, a bunch of surges. Groot is ready. So now we definitely want to clear Find the Senator, which we can do easily with Metro PD and then clear the area. We're obviously going to do our Groot ability to put 2 counters on us. So we're at 10 counters. We can't ever get more than that, which means I am Groot. The attack does 10 damage. So we can definitely one-shot Blob. Another option we have is that we can Root Stomp, which is technically the same amount of resources. It's also superpower that's deal 5 damage and place 1 growth counter. That means we might be able to like spend 2 counters on Lashing Vines, redding Groot, and then we can do Root Stomp after Metropeding Blob to get a bit more damage in and be at 9 counters. I think that's reasonable. We want to get Gamora down. Gamora is actually pretty good to get down. We haven't found Nowhere yet. Not you. But in theory, once we have Nowhere down, Gamora is a bit better to get down. She attacks for 2, which is not super useful here. We also might get attacked twice if we clear Feral Rage. So I think we're going to clear Find the Senator first, flip, grab Robert Kelly, and then we'll see what happens from there. But we have to plan this out relatively well. So I do think we are going to use Groot. So we'll flip over. So now we have Groot. We want to do an activation here. So I think we might just attack for 2. We also could thwart for 1. So attack for 2 is better. We can Metro PD, clear the area, unfind the Senator. That's fine. What else can we do? If we do 2 damage to Blob, then we can defeat Blob with Root Stomp, which is pretty good because then we do 5 damage. We could use Metro PD to ping Sabretooth and then do 10 damage to Sabretooth, but I don't think we have resources for all of this. So hold on. Got to think this through. So we can do Martin X into Blob. We could do Metro PD into Find the Senator, but we want to activate. So either we attack for 2 into Blob or 1 into Blob, it doesn't matter. So we might as well thwart to Find the Senator. And none of it matters, actually. So I'm going to thwart 1. But we could thwart even higher if we actually instead put down our Entangling Vines. That might be better. So if we play this, it's a superpower, so we can play it for free with Death Focus. And it just says that we can thwart for 3, which clears Find the Senator all at once. If that's the case, we don't play Clear the Area. I don't think we have a huge incentive to play Clear the Area because we can't cheat it out. And that will leave us with 5 cards in hand. 5 cards is ugly because we can't play 5 cards. So if we played this, yeah, this is slightly ugly. Our cards are a bit too expensive and we don't have resource generators. So it might make more sense just to play 2 2-costers or Clear the Area cantrip. That'll draw a card. That'll give us 5 cards, so we can play 2-2. No, that's also pretty bad. So the only way to use all of our hand here is to play 2 2-costers, or a 2-coster and a 3-coster with Death Focus. Which means maybe we do actually just play Gamora and we just Root Stomp Blob. Yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with that. So, oh, with Gamora we draw cards, so actually that changes the math a bit. F it. We'll do it. So we're not going to play I'm Groot. We're not going to play I'm Groot. We're not going to play Clear the Area. We'll play Gamora. Basic. Gamora comes in. Only if you're the Guardian. We're a Guardian. I think we're only a Guardian on one side of Groot. The other side of Groot is just an Outlaw. So we're a Guardian now. Gamora comes in. And your response after Gamora attacks or thwarts, you can choose to discard cards from the top of your deck until you discard an event and add it to your hand. So if we need another resource, that's a nice way to get another resource. From this hand, we can just play Root Stomp. If we get a card with Gamora, we actually can't play it that easily. So I don't think we will. So if that's the case, yeah, I don't think we can actually play the card. Because I think we just do Death Focus Root Stomp. So Martin X. So Groot will attack for 2 to Blob. Then we'll do Death Focus, pitching Entangling Vines, which might be wrong. Actually, we should keep Entangling Vines. So what are we doing with Gamora? We're going to do Metro PD for 1. And then Martin X for 1. And then Gamora for 1. So Gamora, after Gamora attacks or thwarts, discard cards for an event. We hit Skilled Investigator into the bin. That's a bummer. We hit Fertile Ground into the bin. What happens when we draw this? It says after this card enters your hand, it doesn't. So this gets discarded into the counter bin. Wait, that was sick. Because yeah, you don't draw, you just discard it. We lost Eros. We lost a Genius. We got another Root Stomp. Okay, that's fine. There's 3 of those. Carrie, how's it going? That clears. Find the Senator. Find the Senator says when defeated. That was good that we got rid of it. Again, that card gets discarded to the right bin, so which is not our discard bin. So when defeated, the first player takes control of Robert Kelly. So now Robert Kelly is an ally that doesn't take up a slot, but every attack goes to Robert Kelly if we don't block. Advance to the main scheme 2A, flip this card and place it next to the main scheme. So this is just a reminder text, if I'm not mistaken. It gives us another ability. So this is called Protect the Senator. Underestimating how many cards start with Protect. So this says Robert Kelly cannot be healed and cannot have upgrades attached. And after your hero defends against an attack, you can spend 2 resources of any type to ready your hero, and only the player who controls Robert Kelly can deal with this, can do this. So that's just like an ongoing ability we have to remember. But again, anytime that there's an undefended attack, the damage resolves against Robert Kelly. So we now have to be kind of in protector mode, which is totally fine for us. We then advance this Act 2A, so we clear 10 counters at once, and we get to the Injured Senator. The Injured Senator says, Sabretooth has wounded Senator and is continuing to hound him. Deal each player face down a counter card. So we only draw that during the phase. You don't get that immediately. And then we have the final main scheme, which is the Injured Senator. This has 9 threshold. It comes in with no threat. It says when completed, defeat Robert Kelly. And when Robert Kelly's defeated, we lose. That's really flavorful. That's not just lose, it's defeat Robert Kelly and then you lose. That's the consequences. And when this hits 9, yeah, Robert Kelly's defeated. So now all we have to do is defeat Robert Kelly while fighting Sabretooth. Not so bad. Okay, so we have an encounter card coming in. We have Robert Kelly, which can't attack or can't thwart, but you can actually exhaust Robert Kelly for certain effects. It has a Senator trait, which is kind of funny. But again, anytime that there's an attack, we'll take it. And we can spend 2 resources to ready ourselves. Okay, if that's the case now, we're going to use Deft Focus to do a Root Stomp. Root Stomp says 5 damage if this defeats an enemy, get a counter. So, oh, we were meant to spend 2 counters first. Is that worth it? We're going to be on 9 counters. Yeah, 9 counters is fine. We're going to spend 2 counters to ready Groot first. It says after Groot uses a basic power. Okay, we have to remember to do that right away. We were going to do that no matter what, but we have to use that after you use an activation. So Groot is now ready on 8. And then we're going to spend 2 on Deft Focus to play Root Stomp. Root Stomp does 5 damage to target. If it defeats the target, we put a growth counter. So we defeat Blob and we're at 9 counters, which is good enough. Defeated Blob. Now we're ready. So we get thwart for 1. We get attack for 2 to take the toughness off. I'm okay thwarting for 1 just so we can finish this next round. And we're going to be attacked by Feral Rage in the near future. We're going to hold on to Entangling Vines because we can play for free next turn. And that's it. And we're going to have to be blocking constantly, especially if we get like multiple attacks from Sabretooth. We also can block with Martin X, who's done enough. I love the art on Find the Senator. It reminds me of the meme that hides under the desk. I'm not sure if oh yeah, I know the one with the robots hunting, the Terminator. All right, we got Rocket. Pretty good. We have Guardians. We'll see if there's some allies that come out or some minions. There's more Guardians. So that's Drax, who can only attack Sabretooth. Think fast for Confuse, and Confuse is reasonable now because jumping down actually makes a fair bit of sense. And then we have Quasar. So we drew all our allies at once. That is not good. I think we shuffled our deck. I'm pretty sure we shuffled our deck. But that's not good because we want to split these up because having a bunch of 3-cost cards is not good for us. All right, we got 1 here. Now the Senator is going to get attacked for 2 and a card unless we block. So we can block with Groot, who defends for 3, or we can block with Martin X, who that's probably gonna be the end of Martin X. We can draw a card with Gamora when Gamora attacks or thwarts, so we are technically up 1 card. We're gonna have to block Feral Rage, and we want to be ready to block if there's a double attack, because Sabretooth will attack the Senator again, so I'm just gonna block with Martin X. Robert Kelly doesn't take up an ally slot. Yes, so while we can play a 3rd ally, it's not that important we get Martin X, but blocking is worth a 1 attack or 1 thwart. Massive Mystique, that's 3 icons. Again, this is such an important card to not draw because Mystique has 9 health and toughness and mimics the villain stats. So Martin X is defeated. Now again, Sabretooth activated. We'll see how many times we forget this, but you do heal. So we discard Avalanche. That would heal 1. Now we get 2 encounter cards. First card, Medical Emergency. This is kind of cool. You don't always have that. Whoa, different Medical Emergency, right? Medical Emergency, the scheme. So Medical Emergency, the scheme comes in with 4 threat, has an acceleration icon. So once at the beginning of the round, we'll put an additional Injured Senator. And when we defeat this, we heal Robert Kelly. That's all it does, and has victory 1, which doesn't really matter. But it's neat that it's not necessary, but it also gives you an upside. Mutant Terrorists. So it says, when revealed, search the encounter deck and discard pile for the Brotherhood side scheme and reveal it. Shuffled. It did not enter play this way, discard cards from the top of the deck until you get a Brotherhood. So we're going to get another side scheme. It's good that we kept our Lashing Vines that we can play so that we can get our thwarting up, because we're going to have a lot of work to do on side schemes here. The weird thing here is because we're looking through the deck, we actually can tell which of the from the future that we shuffled into the deck. So we can see it's Nano Sentinel tech. So that's good. That is an attachment that shows up. But we have to go find the Brotherhood side scheme and put into play. Okay, so apparently it was in the discard pile. Found it always funny in multiplayer, the first player usually goes to Alter Ego so they don't have to defend against Sabretooth, just passing the politician around. And like, that kind of makes sense, right? It's like, don't just hang out, be normal. Just stand in the cafe or whatever while everyone else is fighting. It is a really cool thing about playing this game multiplayer, is that you do have good incentives to do this sort of stuff. All right, this is the Brotherhood. It has an icon. I believe it's called the hazard icon. So we draw another counter card. It comes in with 2 more, so it's 5. We have so much work to do on threat. Drawing both of our like do 9 threats is not great. It says Magneto assembled the Brotherhood of Mutants to enact the plan of mutant dominance. And it says each Brotherhood of Mutants gains quick strike, which again, that damage will happen against Robert Kelly, which is not good. So we have to deal with a lot of different things. In theory, we can let this go. We can confuse Sabretooth and hope for the best, but we definitely want to clear Brotherhood first and then Mutant Emergency second, Medical Emergency second, but we're not very good at thwarting. So we have to figure it out. Okay, Depth Focus will, I wouldn't say always, but usually plays Entangling Vines. There's a chance that Gamora will draw into another event we can play. I'm just not sure what it is. Might need to rush down Sabretooth. The issue is like, I don't think we can, because we discarded both copies of I'm Groot, which is our 10 damage card. So I think we're just going to like set up a bit, flip down, wait for the cycle, and then just rush down Sabretooth. I think as a Justice deck, this might be okay, as much as we do have problems. Quasar is really good here. Like legit Quasar is sick here, because when Quasar comes into play, we remove 1 threat from each scheme in play, which hits like so much. It hits every single one. There's no way that we're not playing Quasar. Yeah, that means if we play Quasar, that's going to be 3 cards. So Depth Focus plays this for free. We can always ready Groot to do more threatening stuff. But that means we can't play Think Fast, which is okay. That's okay, I think. But we definitely want to play Quasar here. What does the Crisis icon technically do? I think Crisis says that we cannot remove threat or thwart, but I do think Quasar can happen, right? What's the text on Quasar? Hey, Donovan, I ran across your Marvel Champions channel. I've been loving all the content so much that I've binged all your streams and videos. I have one burning question though. What size dice do you use? Firstly, thanks so much for the kind words. We're getting to the point that this channel is big enough that people are stumbling across it on YouTube recommendations, which like, hey, the algorithm works. And thank you for the kind words. I'm glad you're liking it. These dice are a bit small. These are like the Chessex. I don't know. They're bigger than 10. I can measure, but I think these are like the pretty standard. Do I have a box here maybe? Hold on 1 second. I couldn't tell you. It is a pretty standard size. I think they might be like 16 millimeter, but if you have a Marvel Champions card, it's just as big as the Marvel text on the back. They're not the best for streaming. Like they're a bit small. It's a big reason why we moved our like health and our other totals off of dice to make it easier to read. I might look into getting some bigger dice for streaming. Not that that's specifically why I think you're bringing it up as like a backhanded thing. But yeah, it is. They're like the standard size that are perfect for tabletop play. If I'm not mistaken, you can't thwart, but effects or remove threat on other schemes do work. Okay, remove threat. All right. That seems good then. So I think that's our turn. That we'll do 1, 2, 3. And we'll play Quasar. After Quasar enters play, remove 1 threat from each scheme in play. That is busted good on this board state. So we're going to remove 1 from this. We're going to remove 1 from this. We're going to remove 1 from this, and we'll clear Feral Rage. Feral Rage, unfortunately, has some text for us that says, whoever clears this, I believe the villain activates. So it says, when defeated, Sabretooth attack the players who defeated the scheme, even if that player's an alter ego. Okay, so we're going to get attacked for 2 and a card. We can block with Groot, no problem. Yeah, we'll block with Groot, so we're blocking for 3. Again, we could swagger if we wanted to. I don't think we need to. I don't think we need a Vine Shield. We actually kind of don't want to block, because then we can't thwart for 3. Yeah, we definitely want to thwart for 3 here. So do we just block with Gamora? We could just use Swagger. Like, this might be a reasonable time to use Swagger. Like, Swagger is like, whatever. It's not the most useful, but in theory here we can block for 6 and ready. Now, it's nice to have that as like a panic block, but here I really want to use our abilities. Maybe actually because we're going Alter Ego. Are we going Alter Ego? Yeah, I think we are going Alter Ego. We could use Lashing Vines to spend 2 to ready ourselves. And then we'll be on 7. But then we'll be on 6. Not great. What's Gamora doing for us? Gamora is like not doing much here. She's thwarting for 1. Yeah, I'll just block with Gamora so we can threat. So I'll block with Gamora. Attacking for 2 in a card. +1, Unrelenting Strike. So that's 3 damage that defeats Gamora. After Sabretooth activates, discard a card and heals. Sabretooth would have healed 2. We lose a medical emergency. And then that's back to us. Ryzagon says threat cannot be removed from the main scheme. So Quasar won't hit the main, but actually I love the size of the dice for the camera. Keep up the good work. Oh, cheers. Thank you. Patrol says you cannot thwart. Oh, that's a difference. Yeah, Patrol you can get around by non-thwart effects. Okay, so we can't touch that. That's totally fine. It's not a big deal. Thank you. So then we'll do Depth Focus for Entangling Vines, which means we can now... One of these cards isn't in my database for some reason. This one is not the one. So now we can thwart 1. We'll use Entangling Vines to remove a counter, so we'll thwart for 3. I'm pretty sure we want to deal with the Brotherhood. Sorry, that was on 4, so it goes down to 1. Then we'll use Metro PD to clear the Brotherhood. Just don't want to deal with that. Medical Emergency is not great. Quasar could thwart for 1 or attack for 2. Against Toughness, it seems a bit silly, so we'll just like tempo thwart for 1. Actually, no, that's silly because we can clear it next turn on our own. But Quasar can clear with Metro PD, that's fine. We don't want to ready Lashing Vines. I think that's it. We'll ready up. Yeah, we're doing okay. Drawing our Unflappable in this hand would be actually really sick, and I think we will. Root Stomp, 5 damage. Sense of Justice, 1 resource for thwart events, not bad. Vine Spikes, this is the one that gives us +2 attack if we spend a counter. Power in All of Us, we've been drawing these in a really bad order. I don't think we have any other cards. Oh no, we have a Nowhere that we could draw. Hey, there you go. There's the Nowhere we can play for free with the Power in All of Us. So not the best hand. We might Root Stomp if we get a minion. Otherwise, we might just set up with Sense of Justice, Nowhere, and then maybe jump down and just say, I don't care about threat. This gets 3 threat, or up to 3 threat, because this has an acceleration. Let's slide Sabretooth slightly over. And Sabretooth is now going to attack for 2 in a card. If we don't block, it goes to our friend Kelly. So we are going to block for 3. Again, we can always spend 2 resources to wake ourselves up, or we can just spend 2 growth counters. We're just going to block for 3 off of 2 in a card. Boost Icon, if this attack defeats an ally, place 2 threat on the main scheme, so that is no damage. Sabretooth heals 3. Don't draw Metamorphic Mayhem, that's pretty good. Groot, we're not going to ready ourselves for 2 resources. If things go really pear-shaped and Sabretooth attacks again, we'll block with Quasar. Actually, do we spend 2 to ready ourselves? Maybe we do. We have to do that after he uses the basic power. So this is the window if we want to use Lashing Vines. After you use the basic, and we use the basic defend. So here we could ready Groot. If we ready Groot, this is where the economy Groot's really interesting, because you need to spend your growth counters to do cool things, but all your payoff cards care about having enough growth counters. So ideally, if we draw a minion, that would be the best case, so that we can actually stomp someone. But if we spend 2 growth counters, we go down to 6. If we spend 1 more, we go down to 5. We have no Confused in our hand. Yeah, let's just ready. So we'll spend 2 to ready. Counter. Nice, we got a minion, that's sick. So this is Pyro. Not that Pyro, that Pyro actually. 4 health. After Pyro, when Pyro attacks, you take indirect damage, ripping the top of your deck, which is thematic. Every version of Pyro in the game does something like that. So that is a very easy target for us to stomp. So if that's the case, we are going to just play Power in All of Us, generating 2 resources for Nowhere. This will be good on our second cycle because I think we drew just about all of our minions, but it says after you play a Guardian ally, draw a card. All our allies are Guardians. We're playing a bit of a theme deck here. Pyro is going to be easy to deal with. We can just do Deft Focus into Pyro. We can hold on to Vine Spikes if we want to. I'd rather keep on Sense of Justice because I think we have 2 double resources in our bottom 6, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be easy to play. So we'll do Deft Focus and Spikes for Root Stomp, which just says deal 5 damage. Get a counter if it defeats something, so we're on 7. Pyro's cooked. So we can thwart for 3, and I think we will flip down here. Yeah, I think flipping down is reasonable. So if that's the case, Quasar is going to thwart for 1. Metro PD is going to thwart for 1. We get rid of Medical Emergency. Medical Emergency, when defeated, heal 2 to Robert Kelly. And this is Victory 1, so we'll add it to the victory display. So it's going to be out of the game. Okay, that means it's us. I think we're just going to thwart for 1. And then we can spend counters on Entangling Vines to give us +2 thwart, so we'll thwart for 3. This board state feels pretty okay to flip down, so we'll flip to Alter Ego. And in Alter Ego, we'll use our ability to put 2 counters, so we're up to 9. Did we spend 1 for the Entangling Vines? I think we did. What were we at? We were at 6? No. I think I might be short a counter or over a counter, but that's fine because we're going to Growth Spurt next round anyways. Okay, that's us. We'll keep the sense of justice because we have a bunch of doubles and 6 hand size. We'll draw a float like a butterfly. So if we hit things that are confused, they'll take more damage. There's the doubles we're talking about. There's the unflappable we really wanted. There's a sonic rifle, which we can probably afford, and give us one more double. Think fast. Okay, one less card in our deck. I don't feel bad checking what it is instead of checking our discard pile. It's a power in all of us, so it is the last double. I thought it was not that double, but that's good to know. And now it's to Sabretooth. One goes here. Sabretooth activates. It's going to be a scheme for 2 and a card. 2 boost icons on master plan, so this goes up to 5. We could just lose if we draw the thing that says Sabretooth schemes. We're going to discard a card. Sabretooth heals 2. That's our Nano Sentinel. That's our future pass card. So Sabretooth's at full health and don't get a scheme. Homo Superior. This has Surge because there's no minions to attach it to. Ah, it had to be. It had to be. So if we get bad icons, if we get a 3 boost icon on this, we just lose. Place 1 pursued counter and pursued by the past. Oh, we normally do purple dice for that. Let's figure out that. So I think it's on 2. So Sabretooth is going to scheme for 2 and a card. Small icons. 1 icon. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3. So this is at 8. We need that to be small. That was close. We went from 0 to 8. That is just like the solo issue. And now Sabretooth does the healing factor thing. So heals 2. We lose drawing near. All right, we have a lot of work to do. Flipping down was dangerous. Yeah, that was bad. That's like what happens. In theory, I usually check how many dark designs are left in the deck. I think there's only 1 dark designs because we ripped one early. Yeah, but the problem is if you draw any of these like Unrelenting Savage, Sabretooth also like schemes. I'm not sure off the top how many of these are in the deck, but it was like not super unlikely that Sabretooth would activate twice. But we had to get lucky on the icon there. Most of the use growth counters are in the bin, so now it's a good time to ready up. Yeah, exactly. All right, we're definitely going to grow up. So we're at 10. We have a lot of thwarting to do. That's for sure. If we want to use Sonic Rifle, we have to flip up. We definitely want to just start building things on the table. We want to get Quasar into the bin because we're going to cycle through our deck and draw another encounter card. So I don't think we have much to do here besides just set up as much as we can. All right. That was close. Yo, Cody. Got you up on a second monitor while I do stuff. I'm still only vaguely understand this game, but I enjoy learning it by osmosis. It's a really like straightforward game to play. It's like a very simple 2-phase structure. It's quite nice. Hopefully it's making some amount of sense. Glad you can make it to the stream. Okay, what are we doing here? What's a necessity to play? Unfortunately, we have no superpowers, so we can't use Depth Focus. We have no way to fire nowhere. We're definitely going to Metro PD for 1 counter off of this, which just does 1 thwart or 1 damage a turn. I have no doubt that Groot is going to activate, so we're going to use Groot to thwart, and we're going to use a counter to give +2 thwart, so we're going to thwart for 3, so 7 goes down to 4. Quasar will thwart for 1, so down to 3, that's respectable, and Quasar is defeated by Consequential. We want Quasar to be in the bin. Okay, we're not doing any attacks, that's fine. So I think the most important cards we can play, I don't mind Sonic Rifle, but I think we just have to plan out making more sense every Friday I tune in. By 2026, you'll be an expert. That's for sure. So with strength, we definitely either play Justice or Rifle. So we'll see what extra cards we have left over. I want to play Unflappable for sure, which means we have 1 left over, which makes me more interested to play Sonic Rifle. That being said, I do think Groot's economy is actually pretty rough. That having Sense of Justice on the table helps a lot. It means we can play any of our I Am Groots for free, and it means that we can play... Oh no, I think they cost 3. So I Am Groots get cheaper, and it means that we can play any of our whatever that Clear the Area is called. It's called Clear the Area. So if that's the case, I don't think we do Think Fast, we play the Rifle. So we're gonna play Unflappable. This is our splash card because we can. Because we were playing the campaign mode and we're playing Defender, which means we can put in 1 Justice card, or sorry, 1 Protection card in our Justice deck. Then we'll pitch... Wait, did I do this wrong? Oh yeah, because we have 1 more resource left over. 1, 2... Yeah, I did this wrong. The math was wrong. Because there was an extra card there. So we'll do 1, 2, 3 for Sonic Rifle. This is a bit of a staple in faction. Sonic Rifle says uses 2 charge counters, so there's 2 bullets on this. I'm just gonna, I guess, yeah, the easiest way to do is this. And we can use a counter to either do a Confuse to a target, or if they're already confused, 3 damage. I've almost never used that secondary ability because Confuse is really good in solo. I don't need to Confuse Sabretooth here because we're not going to flip down, but I will Confuse Sabretooth once we have to, you know, jump down to heal. This is a Think Fast, which does damage. I think I'm actually going to keep in our hand instead. We're going to keep the Float Like a Butterfly so we can transition to damage. because we're going to be drawing all our confused cards back, and we have the Sonic Rifle, and Float Like a Butterfly will scale up relatively well with a bunch of our allies and a bunch of our incidental damage. This card is very good to get, and at the end of cycle 1 is probably a really great time to drop it before we go through our whole deck. I think that's it. That's all we could do. Robert Kelly can't do anything. I didn't want to ready. Oh, actually, we could just consider readying for Lashing Vines, but then we only do 1 thwart because we can't use Entangling again, so we'll just pass. Cool. So we're going to draw up. So we draw up our last card, which is Power, which means we get an encounter card. The deck is almost empty, which is just a thing that happens with Sabretooth, because Sabretooth mills the deck every time that Sabretooth activates. And that means we'll get an acceleration sooner than later. So we do have to transition to just like fighting Sabretooth hand to hand. I'm going to shuffle this actually relatively well because all our allies were grouped up. How's everyone's Friday? Shout out in the chat if you're a Groot fan. Whoa, why is chat silent? I don't know, Andre. I feel like people don't like Groot that much. I think Groot is neat. I just think it's like, it's a really tricky design that Groot is forcing you to do 2 things. Horde counters like a dragon and then spend counters. Maybe that's interesting, but it just somehow feels like strangely like they don't work out well together. But we're doing well. We're doing all right. We're really good at blocking, so the big like threat that Sabretooth has against non-defensive decks is not something we're going to struggle with. We have no allies though, so we have to watch out. So there's a chance that we have to consider, like this is the hard thing, is that anytime that we get attacked, we have to consider spending 2 resources or spending 2 vine counters, growth counters, because if it's a double attack, Robert Kelly probably won't get 1 shot on 7 health. But speaking of that, we drew in our vine spikes. Martin X comes in cheap. That's nice to have a guardian. And then we have a Power in All of Us. So Power in All of Us into Martin X means we draw a card with nowhere. Drawing double Power in All of Us, not my favorite. So we'll see what we get from this. This goes to 4. Sabretooth is attacking for 2 and a card. We probably should block. Is Groot a shaper? Kind of, yeah, actually. I guess so. That might be the closest thing to it. Do we just swagger block here? Do we spend a vine counter? Spending a vine counter is kind of reasonable. Spending 2 vine counters to ready is a bit better. I think we're just going to group block for 3. So after you use a basic power, so I'm not sure if that's right now or after the attack. What is the timing for this? After you use a basic power. Some of the verbiage in Marvel Champions still gets me. After you use a basic power, remove 2 Groot. So we use the basic power now by defending, but it's after the resolution of the defense or after you do it. When it says after the attack do something, it means after the attack finishes, and like that's kind of intuitive, but sometimes that also gets me. I've played over 800 games of Marvel Champions, and sometimes I still get confused on like relatively basic stuff, for better or for worse. You know what? I'm going to actually just... In theory, no matter what, Inflappable will fire. On average, Sabretooth can do somewhere between 2 and 5. I think they improved the build counters and spend counters design with Gambit because they use the counters in hero form with the cards that care about them, and there's no max counters for Gambit. Yes. That being said, the fact that one of Gambit's cards gives you a counter, but you can't spend the counter, I think that might have been a mistake that wasn't, I don't know if it wasn't caught or that was intentional, but you have to spend the counters before you play the card, which is the awkward wording. So the one card that says get a counter, do an attack, you can't spend it, like nearly perfect. But yeah, Gambit does this a fair bit more consistently, I think. Okay, so I think we're definitely blocking 3. We can't spend 2 research with Power in All of Us to ready because we're not paying for a gray card. So this hand's not great. Attacking for 2 and a card. Big boost. I think we're fine. Once you install Kit, the side scheme gains the code gate subtype. Very true. I honestly don't even know if we're going to play Kit. I think our resource economy is too bad. It'd be nice to like yog through some stuff. I think we have to ready. I think that's more reasonable that we'll spend 2 counters to ready. So we're on 7. That seems fine. So we're going to be blocking for 3 and we're ready. So Sabretooth's attacking for 2 and a card. 1 boost icon, that's 3 damage. That's perfect because Unflappable now we can exhaust to draw a card because we blocked and took no damage. So we drew into Gamora. That's really good with the second Power in All of Us. Now Sabretooth heals for 1. We draw 2 encounter cards. We want to be ready for double encounter cards. Evil Alliance. This is going to get us our Nemesis. Each Nemesis and minion activates. If there's no Nemesis, place 3 pursuit counters on Pursued by the Past. Pursued by the Past will clear because it hits 4, and then we go get our Nemesis. Our Nemesis is now engaged with us. Hail Fernax. From my understanding from reading online, Fernax is like a character that barely shows up, but this was the choice. Fernax is 6 health, 2/2. And after Fernax activates, deal 2 indirect damage to each player, which that will eat our growth counters, which is not great. We have to put into play Blazing Inferno. I remember this being really annoying. Blazing Inferno. I spelled it wrong. I wrote an F for no. That's good. This comes in only with 3 threat. It says Fernax Rampages across Groot's homeworld, Planet X, bringing death and destruction to everything it touches. After the villain phase begins, deal 2 indirect damage to each player. That's not good. Again, that he just eats our counters. Indirect means we can assign it to allies, and we shuffle 3 cards that all just say take 2 indirect damage. So the deck is only 4 cards and 3 more cards, of which a bunch of them just say take 2 indirect damage. And what else does it say? If Blazing Inferno is played, take an additional damage. Okay, we have to clear Blazing Inferno as soon as possible. If this card has Surge, we're very likely to get cooked for a lot of damage. As much as we can actually send some of that Blazing Inferno damage to Robert Kelly, which is risky, but kind of funny. Shapeshifter. Oh, this does have Surge. The Shapeshifter Surprise. Shuffle this card into your deck. This card gains Surge. Okay, so we'll get to that in a second. Wilt. Ooh, our Obligation. I remember this being bad. You may flip to Alter Ego form. Okay. Exhaust your Alter Ego to remove this from the game, or remove 3 growth counters from Groot. If no growth counters are removed from this, discard this Obligation, and this gains Surge. So, we either lose 3 counters, or we lose an activation. What are we doing with our activation? We are hoping that Gamora finds an attack card. We are going to potentially be exhausted. This is kind of ugly. I think we have to be ready because that's the only way we can clear the Blazing Inferno consistently. I'm pretty sure we have to be ready. So I'm just going to remove 3 counters. We'll go from 7 down to 4. We're going to have to fight for those counters back for sure. And then we just discard this, yeah. Again, Surge if we cannot remove 3. Okay, so we have a lot of problems. I have to now shuffle this in awkwardly the way that you do when you have non-opaque sleeves. So I'm going to shuffle and then I'll cut 3 times with my eyes closed. We can do. Knowing if we see it on top, like we definitely discard it with Gamora, but that will interrupt the nowhere. So we'll hope for the best. I don't know if we're going to be able to defeat Fernax. I think we have a lot of problems this turn. Okay. Notice how I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, like a lot of the times the problem is like doing damage to Sabretooth, like chip damage doesn't work. And it's like turn 6 or 7 and Sabretooth is at full health. Okay. So we'll do 1, 2, 3. Okay. I don't know where the card is. It's somewhere in there. And it's back to us. We only have 4 growth counters. Looking at our hand. If we play Martin X with the Power in All of Us, we draw with Nowhere. We're definitely going to do that. So we'll Power in All of Us, which generates 2 for a basic, and we'll play Martin X. Martin X costs 1 cheaper. That's all Martin X's text is if you are a Guardian, so it is fine. And then we'll exhaust Nowhere to draw a card because we played a Guardian ally. Oh my god, that is perfect. We drew into Rocket Raccoon. Whoa, that's actually really good too, because now we can deal with Fernax. Oh, I wanted to show this. This is one of the things that's like really frustrating that actually goofed me up the first time that my partner and I played this. This is a card, not this card. What is the card that has the boots? That is the Guardian traded card that has the boots that you can use to defend. Does anybody know the name of that card? It's a basic upgrade that says when you take damage, you can discard the top card of your deck to defend or to reduce the damage by 1. It doesn't work with Groot at all, which is really frustrating. I don't even know if it's in Groot's deck or not. It might have been Rocket's deck, but the card just doesn't work with Groot's text, which is really, really awkward. I don't know what the name it is. It's clearly not this. Okay, so now if we play Gamora, we can discard cards from the top of the deck, so we can discard through this. This card's actually a really bad card to draw, because if we draw it, I can't believe that's the second card. That looks so suspicious. Jet Boots? Maybe that's it, Jake. Welcome to the present. No, it's a neutral one. It's a basic card. It's not yeah, from Star-Lord. It's something Boots, but the thing is I can only search this front of the name. Thruster? No, that can't be it. Thruster Boots? Nope. There's just more Guardian Boots out there apparently. But one of those doesn't work if we can find the text. Okay, so I'm gonna do Power and All Us to generate 2. And I think we're gonna throw a Float Like a Butterfly. I don't know if we're going to need it for Fernax. Booster? Yes, that's it. Booster Boots. That's the one. So whose precon was this in? Because this says Hero Interrupt. When you would take any amount of damage from an attack, exhaust Booster Boots and discard the top card of your deck to prevent one of that damage. This looks perfect, right? It is going to defend against Groot, so Groot takes less damage, which means Groot loses less counters. When you're going to take damage, don't. But it doesn't work. And maybe it makes sense because a Groot as a tree can't wear boots. But Groot is a forced interrupt. And forced interrupts have priority over non-forced interrupts, over optional interrupts. This is the hero interrupt, which means that it's impossible to use booster boots with Groot if Groot has growth counters. That is like really not intuitive for a lot of players. They probably do play this incorrectly, but like this sort of nuance with Groot shows up very quickly. Guardians don't leave the shop without a good pair of shoes. Yeah, at least Groot is like barefoot, which like I guess that's good for some people. We'll do Power in All of Us into Fine Spike we can play. I think we're going to get rid of Rocket because I think maybe we'd rather keep Rocket in our hand. Yeah. Rocket doing 4 damage into Fernax seems good. 1, 2, 3. We can defeat Fernax. We'll play Gamora. Gamora comes in. After Gamora attacks or thwarts, we discard cards from the top of the deck until we get an event. That's pretty good because they will discard the top card of our deck. I still can't believe it's there. So now we have to decide what we want to do. We definitely want to clear Blazing Inferno, which nobody's particularly good at that. Actually, we're the best at that. So Groot is going to thwart, removing 1 growth counter with Entangling Vines to clear Blazing Inferno. That's good. We're going to get a whole bunch of burn damage off the top of the deck, so I think we can flip down if we confuse Sabretooth. We know the majority of the deck is just burn damage and not activation, so I'm not too worried about the injured Senator. We need to deal with Fernax, because Fernax hurts us even if Fernax thwarts. So we're going to attack with Gamora for 2 damage. Says after Gamora attacks or thwarts, discard cards from the top of your deck until an event. Root Stomp. Ooh, that's perfect. Whoa, that was really good. So that's a Root Stomp. Root Stomp we can play. Holding a card in the hand if we want. So I think we're going to hold on to Rocket so we get Nowhere synergy. So we'll do Deft Focus and Vine Spike into Root Stomp. Root Stomp does 5 damage, and if it defeats something, we get a growth counter back. So we're up to 4 counters, and we've defeated Fernax. That was a really good top deck. Okay, so now we're going to use the Sonic Rifle to just confuse Sabretooth. That toughness has been there since turn 1. We'll use Martinex to work on this slightly. I think 3 will be the best we have. We'll use Metro PD to work on this. We'll flip down with Groot. And then with Groot, we'll put 2 growth counters with the growth spread ability. We're back up on 6. Okay, we recovered pretty well. We'll hold on to Rocket. If we get a double, we can play Rocket, draw a card with Nowhere. There is maybe Avalanche is still in the deck. I think there's 1 or 2 more minions. Toad, I don't think has shown up. Maybe we've discarded them, but there's still a couple minions left over. We'll drop to 5. Rocket. Fruition, okay, 2 more growth counters. There's the Genius, so Rocket will be drawing a card. Think Fast for more Confuse. Another Sonic Rifle, it's not unique. That will be our 2 restricted slots, and then Clear the Area, which is not bad at all. Okay, we need to transition to damage mode. Injured Senator goes to 3. Sabretooth would attack, but is confused. Good thing is that the activation is canceled by a status effect. Sabretooth won't do the recovery thing that Sabretooth does. And then our encounter card is not a surprise. There's still 2 more. Fan the Flames. It says take 2 indirect damage. Blazing Inferno's in play, take 1 additional damage. Fernax is in play, take an additional indirect damage. Indirect damage we can assign to any of our characters, except no character can take more damage than their health. Now, notably, Groot, being an alter ego, doesn't have the ability that forces Groot to take damage off of the growth counters. So we actually can just take it to the face, which is nice. It actually keeps our growth counters if we do this in alter ego. There's 2 more in the deck, and the deck is only like 5 cards. So we're going to get a bunch more Fan the Flames, and that shouldn't be that big of an issue. Okay, so let's go. Clear the Area, we should definitely play. We don't want to recover. We're going to use Growth Spurt to put us up to 8. We definitely have to start slinging some damage here, which shouldn't be that hard. So planning our turn, we want to play Genius into Rocket. Rocket's not fantastic, so actually we'll probably try and draw first. I don't know if we'll play the second Sonic Rifle. I think we definitely flip up. The question is whether we clear Injured Senator with Clear the Area. I think we do. So we'll do Metro PD. Yeah, so we'll play Clear the Area. The question is, what card do we throw out? I think there's a chance it's the Sonic Rifle. It's more likely we'll play Rocket Raccoon, so I'll play Clear the Area, which removes 2 threat, and if that clears the last threat, we draw a card. So we'll clear 2 and draw a card. We got an Eros. Okay, not bad. There's no minions, but Eros is cheaper than Rocket and actually might make sense. Eros's numbers are not as good, but we'll chump block with Eros. I think we'll hold on to Rocket. I do think there's going to be more minions in the deck left over. I think there's still 2 that we're missing. We'll use Martinex to ping off the toughness, and then we'll start doing damage. So Gamora is going to attack for 2. So Sabretooth is going to go down to 13, our first damage. Okay, we got there. And then we're going to use Gamora's ability to discard until we find an event. Bummer. Okay, it's a Root Stomp. We can play that. And we'll start throwing the damage. We'll spend 2 with Genius to play Eros. Eros comes into play. It's a Guardian. We draw a card with Nowhere. We draw an Energy. That's fine. I feel like I wish we kept a Rifle, but this is the life we're in. So after you play Eros from your hand, spend for each mental confuse a minion. We have no minions. So we need to start doing more damage. So where's our damage? We have another Guardian slot. Yeah, we have another Guardian slot. So we actually can't play Rocket this turn. I think that's okay. We don't have the one that gives us +2 attack. We're going to be able to give us 2 more. So we'll Fruition for 2 more. It's not the most useful. Think Fast is fine. So Fruition's not that good. I think we'll just do this part of our hand. So we'll do Depth Focus. We do this. We waste Depth Focus. We play... No, we do this. Then we play Rocket. Or we do Think Fast. We play this. We Fruition. We waste Depth Focus. I think they're both kind of fine. Redding for 2 damage is actually not terrible. Whoa, wait, what are we meant to be doing here? I wish we had the +3 attack one. We don't. So we're just going to start doing damage. Groot will attack for 2. I'm going to spend 2 charges to ready Groot. Groot will attack for 2. Cool. We will now play Fruition to give us 2 counters. That's all it does. It just says gain 2 growth counters. That's fine. Then we will, I think Eros will probably chump block here. Maybe not. So Eros will attack for 1. I'll keep Eros. Yeah, Eros for 1 is fine. So that's 8 damage. So yeah, I think we're just going to do Root Stomp and not use Depth Focus. That does 5 damage to Sabretooth. So that is going to drop Sabretooth to 3. We don't get a growth counter because we don't defeat anything. That's Root Stomp. That leaves us with 1 card. I think we're going to play Think Fast. Think Fast just says, we'll just play this. Take 1 damage and then confuse the villain if you're a Guardian. So we'll confuse Sabretooth, which doesn't really matter here, but we just take 1 damage here. And then we did attack twice with Groot, so we're exhausted. That's fine. That lets us use our whole hand. It'd be nice to have Rocket. Maybe we'll want Rocket in the future, but we should be good from here. The unfortunate thing is that we didn't hold on to our Float Like a Butterfly, which is at the bottom of our deck, which if we float like a butterfly, all of these attacks would have done 1 more damage and Sabretooth would have gone to Sabretooth 3 here. So it does scale really well with a lot of small attacks, which we can do by redding ourselves. Okay, so we'll block here. We don't have to like be scared of blocking because we have allies to chump block if Kelly gets attacked again. We have Drax, which is nice. It's always good to have a Guardian. Skilled Investigator, I feel like we drew that too late. Under Surveillance, we might not need that. I Am Groot, that will remove up to like 7 threat, which is a lot, not necessary. And Sense of Justice is okay setup card, but we're kind of beyond that. We'll put 1 threat here. Sabretooth attacks for 2 in a card. We either can block for 6 with Swagger, or we can block for 3 and maybe lose some counters. We can also just block with Eros. We definitely want to block because we get unflappable, so I'll block. I feel like I'm just going to go the whole game not using Swagger. We're on 7 counters. We could use a counter to ready. Our ready is only worth 2 damage. I'm going to use a counter. No, maybe I won't. For +3 defense? What is this? What are the boost icons on this? 1 boost icon. Okay, so there's 1 boost icon on that Find the Flames. This is more likely to be Fan the Flames. So I'm not going to boost with any of our counters. So we'll just block 3 onto 2. This boost icon, Adamantium Claws, so this attaches it. Adamantium Claws. So it says attach to Sabretooth. Sabretooth's attacks gain piercing. That's fine. We don't have tough. It gives +1. So Sabretooth is attacking for 3. And we can get rid of this by spending 1 of each resource. So Sabretooth attacks for 3. We don't take any damage, so we draw with Unflappable. We drew another Think Fast. And then Sabretooth will discard a card, and it's a Fan the Flames. So Sabretooth recovers 1. So it should be on 4 health. Our encounter card, Animal Ferocity, so more attachments. So Animal Ferocity, Sabretooth gains Stalwart. That's a bummer. Stalwart means you can't be confused or stunned, so you lose that. I think we have a Stalwart token somewhere here. Spend 1 of each type to get rid of this as well, which we probably have to because we do like confusion, but that is the entirety of the villain phase. Yeah, holding a couple confused cards in hand, we probably need to get rid of that. So 1 of each type means we can get rid of Skilled Investigator, we can get rid of Think Fast, we can get rid of, honestly, I Am Groot, and that's totally fine. The issue is we probably want to draw a card first, so we can draw a card by using Gamora. We can also draw a card by playing Drax, and Drax into Sabretooth is really quite good because it will just about defeat Sabretooth. So I'm going to play... It's risky. I guess we can discard cards first and see what we have. So I think the thing we have double of is Science. So I'm going to play Science. Oh, we have to take a risk here because we don't know what we're going to be drawing into. Oh, that's ugly. So I guess we'll start with Gamora. So Gamora will attack for 2. And Gamora will discard for an event. Hit a Fertile Ground. That's a card we wanted. Can't get that. Quasar's gone. Think Fast is gone. So we have another energy, and Gamora is defeated. So our hand has an extra energy, an extra science, an extra energy. That's fine. Doesn't matter which one. I guess we'd rather have this. So we'll pay 3. We're going to pay 3 for Drax. Drax comes in with 4 health, cannot attack minions, can only go face, and Drax is a guardian, so nowhere draws a card. We drew Fruition. That's not bad. Get some free counters. So here we can do 2 damage, which we can do in a couple ways. So I'll do it with Martin X for 1. Yeah. And then we'll do Metro PD for the last one. So that will defeat Sabretooth 2, and we'll go to Sabretooth 3. So Sabretooth 3, not that different. The attachments, mind you, do stay. Sabretooth 3 has 18 health, so villain reset 18. Retaliate 1 in toughness, so actually that is an interesting thing to keep in mind. So every time we attack this, if we don't have range, which we don't, we'll take a damage back. Enforce response is the same text. After Sabretooth attacks against you, discard the top card of the counter deck and heal. Retaliate's a bit annoying because we want to attack with all these minions, so that's unfortunate. That is just how it is. Now I'm going to spend blue, red, and yellow to clear the animal ferocity so we can actually confuse Sabretooth. So that gets rid of the stalwart. So Sabretooth is actually attacking for 4 in a card. We'll just use Drax to attack for 3, taking Retaliate into consequential. So Sabretooth is down to 15. It's in our best interest to flip down and confuse Sabretooth. So we'll use Sonic Rifle to confuse Sabretooth. And that means Sabretooth won't heal because Sabretooth won't activate. The Sonic Rifle is discarded. For us, we can play Fruition to get 2 counters. We're at 9. I think we're just going to flip down here. So we'll flip down, and then we'll use Growth Spurt, so we'll up at 10. If I'm not mistaken, we have a couple cards in our deck that just do 10 damage because we have 10 growth counters. We just want to top deck those, and I think we should be relatively safe. There's a small risk something bad could happen here, but it's super unlikely because, again, we have the confusion. So we'll go from here. Sabretooth has toughness. Oh my god, Sabretooth has toughness. Yeah, you're right. We forgot about that. So I'll just ping Eros the toughness off first. Good catch. I forgot to add the toughness. So we'll do Eros first for 1 damage, and then we'll do the damage with Drax because I don't want to spend 3 damage into Drax. Yeah, good catch. I definitely missed that one. Cool. We'll draw 6. I'm pretty sure we have a whole bunch of the like 10 damage cards in our deck here. We are Groot. That's for toughness counters. That's not bad. Clear the area is fine. Clear the area. I am Groot. Deal damage to a number of growth counters. That's exactly what we need. And a second one. So in theory, this does 20 damage, which is exactly the setup we were waiting for, is work on Groot all at once. Senator goes to 2. Sabretooth activates, but is confused. So we don't have to worry about healing. This will be a Fan the Flames. You know it. Fan the Flames just says, take 2 indirect. We'll just take it to Groot. So we'll do 2 damage. We're down to 6, and we don't have to take the counters off because of the fact that we're in Alter Ego. Okay, that should be it. We'll flip up. Congratulations, we didn't use Swagger. We didn't get the card out of the deck either, which is bad. The Future Past card. So we're gonna have 2 Future Past cards in the future past, but we should be able to do 20 damage, no problem. We are gonna lose 1 counter on the Retaliate, but that should be it. So we'll do 1. I am Groot. This one is the yelling one. I am Groot, capitals. Deal damage to an enemy equal to the number of growth counters. So we have 10 growth counters. We take 1 Retaliate. So that comes out a counter. It has to. And then we'll just yell 1 more time. I'm Groot. That's 9 damage, which defeats Sabretooth. Not so bad at all. We set up okay. I do think our cards, like we have to manage the counters, and we're pretty good into Sabretooth blocking. Sabretooth doesn't have steady or stalwart. The stalwart was annoying because we want to flip down, and stopping Sabretooth from healing is good. But we basically dealt with Sabretooth, I think, in 3 turns once we're fully set up. So generally that's how it goes. Set up, protective Senator, and then just go for the offensive. But that was like a lot of damage in 2 turns, and we did exactly draw to 2 I'm Groots. The bottom of our deck was Root Stomp, which is good damage, and this kit, which I think we're just going to take out because we can't afford it, and our deck is 41 cards anyways, and I don't think we're going to play that card. All right, we did it. It's already 4 o'clock. I think we can do 1 more. We're either going to do the next one, which is the Sentinels, or we can jump to the Mansion. I think we might just try the Sentinels. There's a lot of thwarting to do in the Sentinels because there's a lot of side schemes, and there's a lot of characters you can rescue. If y'all really want to jump to the Mansion, that one's also pretty interesting. I think the Protect the Mansion is also like a fan favorite. So Let me know what y'all think while I deconstruct this and put things back together. Yeah, Groot's weird. It's like, oh, one of this is the police, yeah. Yeah, Groot's really interesting. It's like, you have to really worry about your resources. We didn't luckily get into this scenario where you just get clobbered and then you have no counters, and without counters, none of your cards do anything, which is like a really frightening kind of hole you can get stuck in. And when that happens, it's like, yeah, it's not great. So this is the beginning of the deck, and we'll sort this all out. Last card was Toad, no surprise. We didn't see that. So I guess we milled Avalanche at some point, and I must have missed it. That's our Nemesis set. And then we'll separate this into its constituent parts. So we got really lucky that we managed to Gamora our way through all of these like Mystique cards. They're very, very strong. So we still have non-Sentinel tech in the deck to deal with. This is a Brotherhood card, and we have Mystique cards. Okay, Brotherhood's here. Brotherhood. Cool. So there should be 5 cards. Yep. This should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice. Okay. Let's do some Sentinels, I think. This is standard, and then we dealt with Sabretooth. Okay. Next up, Sentinels. Sentinels. I do believe the main Sentinel has steady, so it's going to be a bit harder to like confuse all the time. There's also just a lot of things you have to do on turn 1. This one starts with like 4 or 5 different side schemes into play. Now, when you are playing campaign mode, you have access to a couple very valuable friends. Like I do think you get Magneto on turn 1, you get Jubilee on turn 1 potentially, and those are very, very good and fun. This scenario also does disincentivize you heavily for chump blocking. I think this is the first scenario that like really punishes you for chump blocking with allies, which is like a very powerful play pattern. Early designs for different heroes were very hit or miss. Trying to make some of them work is a bit of a challenge. Yes, yeah. At least it does like technically work. I don't think we're playing with any of the new cards that would really show off Groot, but I do think if you manage the counters, like Groot does do some good stuff. And then it's more about the like the sort of meta game or like a macro game planning, where it's about like, okay, once we get to the counters, that's when we have to plan to pop off. We got one of those in the victory display. Mention tag is the bane of my existence, so having your insight would be cool. You're helping me be a better player. Mansion attack is like very volatile because there are certain setups that are just really good for you, like genuinely very good for you. Every character having toughness, like that is just fantastic if you're playing a minions deck. Having retaliate can be a problem for certain decks for sure. The steady one, I think sometimes doesn't matter. The thresholds are low on the scheme, so sometimes that can just go bad. That being said, you can always lose one of the schemes. It doesn't end you, but it's like very volatile. I've actually struggled with it sometimes myself, but it's fun. It's fair. It has a lot of like modularity and a lot of variance. I do think we're just going to do Sentinels for this one though, so we can continue through. And then also the thumbnail I put up on YouTube makes some amount of sense. But we'll try and get back to it. I think what I often don't have enough time to play a full campaign on a stream because we're explaining everything and working with the tech. But it might be okay to record some more stuff and put it back on the channel and have show the rest of the campaign. I'm currently planning to, what is it, Restore 10? R10 doesn't work? Yeah, that works. Oh, Restore 10, right. I'm planning to record some content on this channel. I think the next deck I'm going to record is I'm going to do a playthrough of Sinister Motives with Cable, and I'm going to try and do different cables for each scenario, so it's not just the same Cable deck, because Cable is actually very flexible across all aspects, which is kind of cool to see. Okay, we have a lot of setup to do here. There's only one main scheme. It's called Knight of the Sentinels. Very interesting. This is a one that really plays a lot of minions, a lot of side schemes. There's a lot of things going on really quickly. Knight of the Sentinel. So you play with Sentinel 2 and 3. So we have Sentinel 2 here. It says that we need to play with Project Wide Awake, 0 tolerance, standard, and then it's recommending you to play with Sentinels itself, which like, yeah, of course you gotta do that. It makes sense. Set each captive ally aside out of play. So there's 4 captive allies. We can rescue them. As soon as you rescue them, they enter play under your control. They all have really strong effects. They're all more about attacking than thwarting. They all cost 2 and they have wild icons on their bottom. Some of them you like more than others. I think we would pretty much appreciate Wolfsbane because we don't have a good way of dealing with toughness. But these we're going to shuffle and set aside, and we'll have to rescue these if we have to rescue these. Cool. What else do we do? Reveal the Operation 0 Tolerance and Mutant at the Mall side scheme. So these are 2 of the 4 side schemes that start into play. Operation Zero Tolerance is really interesting because it actually is like a modular side scheme that can just show up naturally in other scenarios. It comes in with 3 threat, which doesn't matter because it gets permanent for this scenario. So the threat there, you could technically interact with it, but it doesn't really matter. And it says after an enemy attacks and defeats an ally, you place that ally face down underneath this scheme. And then if there are X face down cards underneath this, where X is 3 more than the number of players, you just lose the game. So again, if an enemy attacks and defeats an ally, so you're really not incentivized to block with your allies. Luckily with Groot, we can block with Groot. But this was like one of the first scenarios that really punishes you from playing Swarm and then just losing all your allies and chump blocking everything. I think it's a really cool scenario. Even if you play like an ally-based deck, you can play around this. You just have to not block with your allies. There are no ways to get allies out from underneath this. So once they're underneath it, you're in a bad spot. And there are different encounter cards that will just put cards underneath this as well, if I'm not mistaken. So you can end up in an awkward situation, but that is just kind of like an ongoing issue. So we'll put it over here because functionally it does not matter. The threat on it doesn't matter. Okay, what else do we have to put into play? We have to put into play Mutants at the Mall. This is a unique side scheme from this. Mutants, I should not have typed Mutants. There's so many cards that start with the word Mutants. Mutants at the Mall comes in with 4 threat and an acceleration icon, but when defeated, the first player searches the counter deck and discard pile for a Sentinel minion and reveals it. A lot of these effects say put into play. This says reveal, so you get all the reveal bonuses, which are not great for you. But you flip this card, and on the backside is Jubilee, and Jubilee enters play. Jubilee does not take up an ally slot, and Jubilee is a 3 health 1/1, but she has an ability to exhaust her and spend an energy resource to deal 2 damage. You definitely don't need Jubilee on turn 1, the way that you want to flip a different card I'll show you on turn 1, but it's nice to get Jubilee and have Jubilee under play because she has a really good ability if you're struggling to do a bit extra damage. We'll flip Knight of the Sentinels over. The backside, this is the only scheme. Notice it says Zero Tolerance gains permanent, so it'll just be hanging around here. No way to get rid of it. The 3 threat doesn't matter. But it says after threat is placed here, if there's at least 5 threat here, the first player places the top card of their deck face down under Zero Tolerance, and then you remove only 5 threat from this. It comes in with 1, it gets 1 a turn, and 5 is a really low threshold. This is a nice card to put under surveillance on. No, actually, under surveillance doesn't do anything because it just cares about being 5 threat here. There's no limit on this. So we just have to keep the threat low. Losing cards doesn't lose you the game. There can be 3 cards underneath this. But as soon as there's 4 cards underneath this, we also just lose. So this is another scenario that has an alternate lose condition. Now there's other things we have to put into play. We have to put Enemy of My Enemy into play. This is because we're playing campaign mode. Enemy of My Enemy is another side scheme that comes in with 3 threat and an acceleration icon. So that's an issue that we have so many of these on turn 1. We're not very good at threatening on turn 1 or thwarting on turn 1. So this is going to be not great for us. We might actually want to change our deck for this scenario and play some of the cards to say like remove 2 threat from one thing and 2 threat from another thing. But when defeated, shuffle the top card of the Future Past deck into the counter deck, flip this card over and put Magneto into play. Magneto is on the backside. Magneto is an ally that has really good numbers, really good text, does not take up an ally slot. So that's something we want to get sooner than later. Now let's talk about Sentinel because Sentinel is coming in with another side scheme. Sentinel comes in steady, toughness, 18 health, villain, name Sentinel. How do I set the name? Oh, I spelled it wrong. Villain, name Sentinel. Nailed it. Villain, set villain health, villain, set 18 health. Cool. Has steady, which means it needs 2 copies of any of the statuses for that to last. Or sorry, stun and confuse specifically. Toughness 1 works. That's going to be a problem because we are a stun deck, or a confused deck more accurately, has toughness. And when revealed, the first player searches the counter deck and discard pile for a copy of Abduction Program. Reveal it, deal each other player a face down card. There are no other players. Now, Abduction Protocol is another one of these side schemes that seems really bad, but actually is an upside. Abduction Protocol, because while it has Crisis and 4 threat, again, there's so many side schemes in play. When we complete this, it removes itself from the game into the victory display, and we get a random set captive ally, set aside captive ally, which again is just another person that we can use to help deal with all these side schemes. Through the history of the game, I do think this is the scenario that has the most stuff in play or the most side schemes in play from turn 1, which like that's overwhelming. Ideally, we're playing Justice, but we actually not that. We have no good burst thwarting cards until we have a bunch of growth counters. The last thing we have to do is, this is discarded, is because we completed the police thing, we can get randomly one of these cards into play. These are one of our defender cards. I am hoping for one that allows us to thwart a bit better. This doesn't. This is Determined Defense. Determined Defense, yeah. And this card says, when you defend against an attack, spend 2 resources of any type. That attack removes threat from the main scheme instead of dealing damage. That's not awful. Removing threat from the main scheme is good. I wanted to be able to deal with side schemes, but we get that because we were good at doing our thing. That starts into play. It's an upgrade. We can discard it. That's mostly it. I think that's the entirety of the setup. This has a whole bunch of minions in it. Again, we have to do a lot of thwarting. We'll shuffle in the other stuff, and then we'll shuffle this up. Play the Douglas wholesale threat removal. I am so confused if anybody can actually play the 6 cost supports and anything else. The Douglas on turn 1 would be pretty sick, that's for sure. But like 6 costers are so hard to play. Like it's your whole hand if you have no like tricks for it. But this is the Douglas. It came out in the last box as one of the massive shield supports for Maria Hill, and it's like, yeah, it's good here. I do think the Douglas is probably the one that I play the least out of all the massive shield ships. It just finally finished the Agents of Shield box. Also, I did notice you use a 60% keyboard, and I thought it was wild for using 65. I've had this for a long time. I didn't get it for the stream. I've just kind of had it. And it's like, it actually has replaced my daily driver, which is kind of awkward because doing video editing and motion graphics, like you actually do use a bunch of the numbers pad and keyboard and other buttons that are not on this. It's not my favorite. Like I have, you know, if I hold super A, it goes left and super W goes up. So like I know most of the shortcuts, but it's not perfect. The upside is it's really small, and so I can put it on my lap. But yeah, it is a 60, which is arguably too small for functional work. Wakanda Panther can definitely build their own fleet of helicarriers. Oh yeah. Yeah, I believe that. You have a lot of vibranium to pay for all of it. Okay, Sentinel. That's it. Mind you, schemes for 2, attacks for 3. Those are pretty good numbers immediately. 18 health, toughness, steady is like also pretty good. The big thing we're going to do is ignore Sentinel. We're going to probably take a couple hits to the face, which Groot does not like. I reckon this is going to be hard. I reckon this might be too much all to do at the top, and we're not very good at doing everything at the top. We could definitely change our deck, but my expectations aren't stellar. I think we could, oh my god, if we opened with what's his name, Quasar, and we remove 1 threat from every scheme, that would be amazing. I think Quasar would be sick to open with. We might hard mulligan for Quasar, and the thing that lets us to spend a growth counter to thwart for +2. The no arrow key is my issue. Yeah, in After Effects, page up and page down go frame up and frame back, which is, I use that way more than any other thing. But yeah, arrow keys, I have to use the 2 buttons. Douglas looked like it would do 2 meat and 1 tag. That's just about it, yeah. But it wouldn't care if it was installed face up or not. 2 meat and a tag is a killer combo piece. Man, I don't know. Last night we played Netrunner on stream with Paul, and the last game where I played like not very good Baz into Oko is like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. I do not know what to do. All right, we're off. Again, we're Groot. No surprise. Technically, we're the other side of the Groot, but we want to get counters. The counters prevent us from dying, but we need the counters for other things. Oko is so tilting. Yeah, I think Oko is kind of messed up. Clear the area, great start. That's what we want. None of the schemes have 2 threat on it, but that means Groot and clear the area can clear, and we can get enemy of my enemy turn 1. We can actually let Operation Zero Tolerance grab 1 card from us. It's not the end of the world, but that's a good start. Root Stomp, we're not going to keep that. Just does a bunch of damage. Don't need it. Float like a butterfly, setup card. Does more damage to confuse things. Not very good considering Sentinel is steady, so that's fine. Second, clear the area. Probably worth keeping. Think fast. We don't really want confuse on turn 1 because the villain is steady. And then we have a, okay, well then. Not the best. We could throw it to clear the area. I think it's not awful. We play both of these for 1 card because the card we get from clear the area, we can play the second clear the area. That's 4 threat for like 3 cards. It's like fine. 4 threat for 3 cards is not the best, but drawing cards sometimes can like get you something better. We have Drax, not very super useful. We have Def Focus, that's really good on turn 1. Let's see if we get something cheap to play it. Another Root Stomp we don't need, and there's no shot we're getting our friend. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, wait, whoa. That got good. That was a good last card. I forgot about this thing. After a side scheme is defeated, draw a card. Exhaust this. So we actually have a chance here. We genuinely have a chance. Snare Bite is 3 in a tag, so like we have worse than standard. You gotta pay 4 for that. The Douglas is actually a bit more expensive. All right, we'll use Groot's Growth Spurt. Mind you, Groot Alter Ego, also called Groot. Just gain 2 of these counters. That's all the counters we're gonna get, and then we'll flip up to hero mode. From here, we're gonna deal with my enemy first. So I'm just going to thwart for 1 off of this. Pretty low numbers. We'll play Skilled Investigator for free, which is nice. Can you play us under other people's control? Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, very, very good. And then we're gonna not use Drax, and we're gonna clear the area. Actually, we're definitely not gonna play Roots. No, we could play Root Stomp. Where's our Deft Focus? Didn't we have a Deft Focus? Oh. Magic trick. Okay, we could keep Root Stomp. So we're definitely not gonna play Drax, and we'll clear the area. This is a solo staple. Remove 2 threat. If this removes the last threat on this game, draw a card. So we'll clear enemy of an enemy. We defeated it, so we'll draw 2 cards. I don't know the order what should go first. We get I Am Groot, which is the attack and a genius, which actually would have been nice maybe to keep Drax. But this is enemy of my enemy, which is going to do some good stuff for us and some bad stuff. I have mislabeled it as enemy of my enement. Fine. So wrong button. When defeated, shuffle the top card of the future perfect deck into the deck. So this again could be a big minion. This could be a side scheme. Left is 1. Okay. And that just goes into the deck. Flip this over and put it under your control. It is Magneto, and Magneto is pretty magnificent. Very nice to start with this on as soon as possible. And Magneto comes in with 5 health. Victory 1. Does not count against your ally limit, which is nice. And after Magneto attacks and defeats a Sentinel minion, heal 1 damage from Magneto. If I'm not mistaken, after attacks and defeats, that has to finish the whole attack. So that means Magneto has to survive the consequential. If Magneto doesn't survive the consequential, Magneto will be defeated before this fires. I'm like 80% confident about that. Enough to say it on the internet, I guess, and record it. But I do want to keep Magneto on above 1 health. Now, Magneto also thwarts for 2, which is great. If we go for mutants at the mall and clear it, we spawn a minion, which actually might be fine that we have our stomp in hand, that we can stomp the minion. So Magneto and the next copy we have of clear the area might just deal with the mutants at the mall. A really good start so far, honestly. So this plays this. So that means I think we're going to do I am Groot. Hold on. Magneto will thwart, taking 2 consequential, dropping this to 2. And then we'll pitch I'm Groot to play clear the area. So remove 2 threat, draw a card. So we completed it. We draw a card. We drew a fruition. That's playable. Mutants at the Mall says, when defeated, the first player searches the encounter deck and discard pile for a Sentinel and reveals it. So it's up to us to take a minion. Ideally, we just want something with 5 health so we can stomp it. And if we stomp it with 5 health, we get a counter back. Sentinel Mark III has toughness and gets an energy barrier. Sentinel Mark IV is fine. It has guard patrol and just 4 health, so that's not bad to get rid of. Let's see if there's something better. Sentinel Mark VI has 6 health. I didn't realize for a long time that each of the Sentinels has exactly the amount of health equal to its Sentinel number. So we want to find ideally Sentinel Mark V if it exists in this box. Sentinel Mark V. If targeted for elimination is attached to you, it attacks you. Otherwise, find targeted for elimination. Targeted for elimination is a card that gets attached to you as an obligation that stops you from flipping down. I don't think we want to get that. So I think we'll just do Sentinel Mark IV for now, because the only way you can get rid of targeted for elimination is flipping to Alter Ego, which we're not going to be that good at doing while they're steady. And other cards actually interact in worse ways if you're targeted for elimination. But yeah, we'll just take that. So flip this card into play, put Jubilee into play. Discard any other versions of Jubilee from play. So if Jubilee is your hero, you lose. That easy. Oops, you lose. I don't actually know what happens. And this is Jubilee, who's not bad at all. Again, we are very disincentivized from chump blocking with our minions, but this is Jubilee. Comes in with 3 health and has the ability that we can exhaust Jubilee as an action to deal 2 damage as long as we spend an energy resource, which is not bad at all. This is the Sentinel Mark IV. Has text, technically. Oh, I have to go through all of them. Sentinel Mark IV. Has guard and patrol. That's fine. Doing good so far, doing well. So we're just gonna root stomp this. Root stomp 5 damage. If it defeats it, get a growth counter. So we're up on 3. We're gonna defeat the Sentinel Mark IV. Jubilee we don't really need to use here. We're gonna block with Groot. Now the idea is, do we play Fruition for Death Focus? I think we do. We lose the Fruition, which is a bit upsetting because we want to like start counter maxing, growth maxing. But Death Focus is just like one of the best cards in our deck because it generates a resource a turn, functionally for a superpower, and we have mostly superpowers in our deck. And that's gonna be it. In theory, we could have played this first to play the Root Stomp, but because it's a double, it doesn't actually like change anything. Because we had something that lined up. We're not gonna do anything with Jubilee. Attacking or thwarting for 1 is like, it's not the worst. We can't do it to Night of the Sentinels though, because it we have the crisis icon here. Actually, if we get this down to 1, yeah, we should. Let's just do Jubilee for 1 damage, and we'll just pick on that so that we can clear it with Groot if we draw the last clear the area, or we can do it with like Magneto Groot and clear this to get a minion, which would be good. An ally, excuse me. Draw up. Fruition, okay. Martin X for 2 is nice. We have Entangling Vines, that's a +2 thwart one. That's really, really good. We actually drew the last clear the area, that's super unlikely. And a Power in All of Us for Martin X. This is a really good hand. We can play just about every card in this hand. That hand slaps. All right, 1 counter goes here. Sentinel is now going to attack for 3 in a card, which is pretty big. We don't want to attack with any of our friends here, so we're going to block with Groot. We could do this thing where when you defend against us, spend 2 resources. I'm not going to do that. So Sentinel is going to attack for 3 in a card. This is, I think, a really bad scenario to grab Determined Defense with because it has a very low threshold. So it's not like we can get the threshold somewhat high and then like save it during the attack phase. Actually, kind of we can. Yeah, it's not the worst. Actually, wait, hold on. This is really bad, isn't it? Determined Defense says Hero Interrupt. So this will happen after the Force Interrupt. When you defend against an attack, spend 2 resources. That attack removes threat from instead of dealing damage. Oh, okay. So instead of dealing damage, which is different from the damage we've taken, so that actually works with Groot's counters. It's not always intuitive how this works. Anyways, attacking for 3 in a card, we're blocking for 3. 1 boost icon, so it does 4 damage. So we lose our first growth counter from defending, and that is that. Our encounter card, a minion here would be fine. Evil Alliance, oh, that's not a good start. Evil Alliance just puts 3 counters on Pursued by the Past, which is the fastest you can get to speed running your Nemesis on turn 2. In theory, it's possible to get your Nemesis on turn 1. Looks like turn 2 is not out of the question. Okay, so we'll set up Power in All of Us to play Martin X. Martin X comes in cheaper because we are Guardian. This card is really not that flashy, but we are Guardian. So 2 is okay. Then we're going to use Martin X to thwart for 1. And then we want to use the Clear the Area. I think we have to pitch the Fruition for this. This will draw a couple cards. So Clear the Area removes 2 threat, and if it defeats a card, we draw a card. If it defeats a side scheme. So we'll draw with Skilled Investigator, and we'll draw with Clear the Area. So we have a couple cards in our hand. That's a good draw. And Abduction Protocols now will be added to the victory display, and it gives us an ally from the set-aside captives. So it says, the player who defeated this scheme sets 1 random captive ally and puts into play. This goes into the victory display. So there's 4 of them. I think the best case scenario here would probably be, again, the one that does with toughness. Forget which one that is, the animal looking one. So this is 1, this is 4. 4. That's the one. Hey, Wolfsbane. Wolfsbane, Project Wide Awake. So this is Wolfsbane. It enters play, right? Puts into play, yeah. Okay, so we don't pay for it. Wolfsbane's attacks just have piercing, which is nice. 3 health, 2 attack, so that means we can start working on Sentinel. Again, we don't want to block with any of these characters, but that's not too bad at all. Again, Magneto and Jubilee notably don't count against our ally limit, so we're not going to worry about having too many allies, but that is not too bad at all. That's Wolfsbane there. So from here, we're going to play Nowhere for free. Or not for free, wow. For the 2 resources. This won't do anything now, but whenever we play a Guardian, we draw a card and ally limit +1. And then for 1, we'll play our superpower, Entangling Vines. So Entangling Vines, now when we do a basic thwart, we can remove a vine counter. We don't really have a lot of vine counters here, but now we can start working on things. So Wolfsbane will attack for 2 with piercing. So I'll take the toughness off, and the villain will go down to 16. We have Jubilee and Magneto. Magneto thwarting for 2 is actually pretty reasonable. If this thwarts out, it's not the end of the world. We just put 1 card underneath Operation Zero Tolerance, which again, we can put 4 there. Our Nemesis will show up sooner than later. I do think we want to be careful because there's just some like awkward orders that you draw cards and then you end up having to put cards underneath there. There's like an obligation that if you can't get rid of it, you have to put the top card of your deck underneath it. So the question is whether Magneto thwarts for 2. I think Magneto thwarting for 2 is totally reasonable. So down to 3 health. If we go to Alter Ego, we'll put 1 here, then Sentinel will do 2, 3. And then if the boost card is at least 2 icons, we have to eat one of our cards from the top of the deck, but it also clears 5 thwart. If we flip down, we can get 2 counters. It's not unreasonable to flip down to Alter Ego. It's just a bit of a risk. It's not awful, but it's a risk. Because we'll be at 3, and then it's likely that Sentinel will put, will scheme for, say on average, 4. So that means this will hit 5. If we do that, we get 2 more counters. I think we need to get counters or our cards are useless. So I'm going to risk it. I'll flip down with Groot, and then we'll use Growth Spurt to go to 4, and then we'll just say we're going to risk it. Might be bad. Might not be too bad. Now, the big thing with Night of the Sentinels is that it doesn't clear all the counters if it hits over 5. It just clears 5. I'd love it if it cleared all, so then we don't care. We like thwart for like at once thwart for like 14, and then we just clear down to 0, only losing 1 card. But we're definitely taking a risk here. That's okay. There's Eros. There's I Am Groot. That does damage equal to the growth counter, so it's good that we have that. Vine Shield, the +3 defense one. That's really good. We need counters. I Am Groot. Remove threat equal to the amount of growth counters. Also not bad. We have a second copy. Oops. And then we have Think Fast, which that's only 1 confuse. We need to stack confuses because the villain has steady. And so this is going to go to 1. Sentinel is going to scheme for 2 in a card, so we're looking for small icons. It's 1 boost icon. Oh no, actually this is going to work really poorly for us too, because the way that this works. So this only has 1 no icons on it. So that means Sentinel is going to scheme and this is going to go up to 3. However, very importantly, it says put this into play, and after the villain activates, all minions that engage with you activate. And because Sentinel Mark IV is engaged with us, it will activate, and because we're alter ego, it will scheme, which puts this exactly to 5. So unfortunate. It wasn't the boost icons, but it was the other thing that got us here. Now Knight of the Sentinel says, after threat is placed here, if there's at least 5, place the top card of their deck face down underneath 0 tolerance and remove 5 threat from this. So 0 tolerance now has 1 card. We're legally not allowed to look at this, but technically once you deck out your deck, you should know what this is. But I don't know what the worst card underneath here could possibly be. But we're at 1. If this hits 4, we lose the game. But at least we have no threat here. Our encounter card is Sinister Strike. This means our Nemesis is coming out, right? Actually, no, it isn't. Yeah, it does. This means our Nemesis is coming out. I never learned there's 17 cards with Sinister. I should have wrote more words. So place 1 Pursuit counter. This will hit 4, which means welcome to Infernax land. So we have Fernax here, has 6. After Fernax activates, we have to take a whole bunch of damage. And then we put Blazing Inferno into play. That comes in with 3 threat. We have a bunch of minions to deal with. I do think we have some damage in our hand. Blazing Inferno says, after the villain phase begins, deal 2 indirect damage to each player. And then we put a bunch of these Fan the Flames into the bin. These are a bit riskier too, because if minions are defeated to attacks, I think it's only attacks, right? Oh yeah, after attacks and defeats. So we actually can defeat our allies to this indirect damage off Fan the Flames, and it won't matter because it's not an attack. Anywho, that's this. Not good. We have a lot of things to start dealing with, but we'll probably get there. But we have some work to do for sure. It's nice at least we got one of these, the side scheme, because that means we can skilled investigator through it if we need to, and then draw another card. Wolfsbane can do damage. Magneto, after Magneto attacks and defeats a Sentinel minion, we heal 1 damage for Magneto. So Magneto can't one-shot the Sentinel Mark IV, but maybe with a bit of help with Jubilee or Martin X, we can do it. That's back to us. So what are we doing here? This I Am Groot does 4 to 6 damage, so that can shoot Fernax, which is nice. We can confuse a bunch of minions with arrows, which is not super necessary. I do want to get the Vine Shield down, which we'll probably do. So we'll first do our growth spurt. So we'll go from 4 to 6. And then we definitely flip up. And now we have to get to work. So I think Groot is for sure going to clear Blazing Inferno. So Groot will scheme for 1 or thwart for 1. And we'll use Entangling Vines, which says we can exhaust when Groot's doing a basic thwart, remove a vine counter. Actually, no, we have to do the order right here, because we don't want to do that because we need to do 6 damage to Fernax. So that means first we'll pitch I Am Groot. And I Am Groot to play I Am Groot. Great. That does damage equal to the amount of counters on Groot. So that will do 6 damage to Fernax. So we have to make sure we get that order right. Should we just play Death Focus here? Yeah, we'll just play Death Focus and keep a card in hand, just in case. We're going to probably play this as well, but we might as well do that, I believe. Okay, now Groot is going to thwart for 1 using a counter with Vines. So that will clear Blazing Inferno. Blazing Inferno, once we clear the side scheme, Skilled Investor can draw a card. Okay, we got Lashing Vines. That readies Groot for 2 Vine counters. Okay. So now we're going to use Martin X to do 1 damage to the Sentinel. And then Magneto is going to do 3 damage to the Sentinel, except when Magneto defeats a Sentinel, you can heal. So Magneto will take no consequential. This says Guard and Patrol on it. Patrol means you can't thwart the main scheme, so that wasn't an issue. We can't really block with our allies, so Wolfsbane is just going to attack for 2 into Sentinel. So that does down to 14. Okay, so we should just set up a bit. Eros doesn't do anything. It does attack for 1. Thwarts for 2 is reasonable. It's a Guardian, so it draws a card, so that's fine. So I'll pitch Think Fast for Eros. When Eros comes into play, I'll say it 13 different ways. We can do this effect that actually we're not going to use. Where's Eros? There's Eros. We'll use nowhere to draw a card. We got a Sonic Rifle. We have to like stack a lot of Confuse against Steady, and we're struggling to get a lot of Confuse. Here, it's probably that we just play one of these cards and pitch the other. So I'm going to pitch the Sonic Rifle to give us the Vine Shield. I think I don't have this one. Oh, I do. I spelled a lot of things wrong. So Vine Shield says that when we're making a basic defense, we can give us +3 defend if we take a growth counter. Eros is in play. I'm not going to use Eros. Eros will thwart next turn, and then we'll hold on to Lashing Vines and pass the turn. Oh, actually, we could just 2 damage with Jubilee into Sentinel if we don't want to hold on to Lashing Vines. I think I'd actually rather hold on to Lashing Vines. I think Lashing Vines is worth setting up with, and we'll play for free next turn, hopefully. Yo, what's up, Jerks Pat? How you doing? There's the Quasar we wanted on turn 1. Fertile Ground. We haven't played this yet, but this is such a good card to go down to Alter Ego. The problem is like Sentinel is steady, so it's really hard to get the Confused for that to be a safety play. Energy for some resources, and then we have Gamora, which is pretty good with nowhere. Can draw a card. Player for that. This comes in for 1. Sentinel is now attacking for 3 and a card. We don't want to block with a minion, so we'll block with Groot. I don't think we're going to use Groot's activation here, so we're going to use a Vine counter to block for 6, which means we'll probably protect more Vine counters. Sentinel attacks for 3, plus the text of give the villain a tough status. So our Vine counter was useless, but we take no damage. That's all that does. Our encounter card is Mutant detected. So this is one of the cards that really matters. So when revealed, either place the top card of your deck face down under Operation Zero Tolerance, or the villain and each minion engaged with you attacks you, even if you were in Alter Ego. That's a really hard choice sometimes. Luckily, I think we'll be okay with it. So now Sentinel is going to attack because we don't want to put a top card under the deck. So that's for 3 and a card. The problem is if we block with a minion, that minion will be defeated and go underneath Operation Zero Tolerance. So here we can't do much. We can't do Determined Defense because Determined Defense says when you defend, and we can't defend if we're exhausted. So we're just gonna have to take this to the face and lose probably all our growth counters, which is where things get really bad really quickly. So Sentinel is attacking for 3 and a card. I don't want to block with a minion. This is 4 damage. So we lose all our growth counters, and now most of our shit doesn't work. And such is the Groot life. Okay. Back to us. At least I guess we didn't take damage, if that's the upside here. We have 1 more ally slot because of nowhere. We don't have that much to do right now. I think we're going to attack with Wolfsbane, which will take the toughness because it has piercing, and put the villain down to 12. Wolfsbane is defeated to consequential. Okay. We definitely want to play Gamora. I don't think we play Quasar, so we'll pitch Quasar and Energy to play Gamora. Gamora comes into play. Gamora is a guardian, so we draw a card. We drew a We Are Groot, which gives us toughness. Actually, might be worth playing. Oh, actually, sorry, we can't. Because We Are Groot requires growth counters. And what do we not have? We don't have growth counters. Now, when Gamora attacks, we can discard cards from the top of the deck to get another card. We don't know what it is necessarily. We can't look because one of our cards is face down, so the math is a bit fuzzy. But Gamora attacking for 2, I think we just need to put some damage on here. Here, Depth Focus should be ready. We haven't used Depth Focus on anything. Why would it not be ready? Yeah, we just forgot it ready yet. So I assume we just use Depth Focus to play Lashing Vines. Lashing Vines allows us to spend 2 growth counters to ready Groot. Oops. And then we'll play Fertile Grounds, which means we have a real incentive to flip down because in Alter Ego, we can use this to draw a card and get counters. Now here is where we have to start working on Confuse pretty hard. We are committing to not use Gamora to discard cards, which I think is fine. The only card we'd really be excited to draw here, I think, is Fruition. We have 2 Fruitions, and I think they're both in the bin. That's our... Oh, wait, maybe we don't. Drawing Fruition would be actually really sick. Oh no, they're both in the bin. Because this is the card that just says place 2 growth counters onto Groot. And the problem right now is we have no growth counters. So we're going to need the growth counters back as soon as possible. That means none of these do anything. We can flip down and it's like very, very likely Knight of the Zealot, Knight of the Sentinels, excuse me, Arkham Bladin will advance and go to Operation Zero Tolerance. There's a chance that we just can't do anything here, that we have to kickstart our economy, our growth economy. We're going to deck out next round, so we want to get our allies defeated. So I think we actually will do that. So we're going to do Martin X is going to thwart for 1. Eros is going to attack for 1. So villain goes down to 12. Gamora is going to attack for 2. So villain goes down to 9. And we're going to hope for the best here. We're going to flip down with Groot. With Groot now, we can do Fertile Grounds, place a growth counter, draw a card. We drew a Vine Spikes. That's the damage one. That's fine. And then we'll use Groot to Growth Spurt to put us up to 3. I think we have to do this. That means next turn we'll be back up to 6, which is really what we need to be doing. This doesn't have an energy icon, so we can't use Jubilee. If this had an energy icon, we just throw it and do 2 more damage to the Sentinel. I don't think we're going to attack with Magneto. I think we're okay here. And we're just hoping that we don't get a big boost. Yeah, I think we have to flip down here, unfortunately. Because again, without counters, our cards don't do anything. So we're going to need counters. And luckily with the Fertile Ground, we can get counters. Sonic Rifle, we'll definitely consider playing that. Sense of Justice, I don't think so. Rocket Raccoon, we could play that to draw a card if we get a double. I think all our doubles are accounted for. Unflappable is really good to draw cards while defending. A Root Stomp for damage. Oh no, we're drawing 6 cards in Alter Ego because we drew card with the Fertile Ground, so we are going to deck out. So none of these hit the rotation. Wait, that was really bad. We might have not wanted to fire Nowhere, but I don't think we planned it out. Because the issue is now we have to draw the 6th card. Fertile Ground, you can't choose not to draw the card, so now we deck out. We did get the double, but the problem that decking out is we get 2 encounter cards, but also none of these cards are in a discard pile for our rotation. That's really rough because we want to fire Nowhere every round. And now, again, a lot of our allies are on the table. So 3 of our 6 allies are not in the discard pile. Not good. We'll be okay, I think. It's nice to get the fruitions back, but I did not do the math. I thought there were 7 cards. I think there were 7 cards. And the issues that we drew with Fertile Grounds, and we can't get around that. If that was the case, should we have used Gamora to discard? No, I don't think so. All right, let's see how bad this can be. Again, this has to hit 4 cards underneath it for us to lose. So we have some room here. I guess we could check what this is in theory. I'm going to try and see if I can figure it out on my own. And nothing is jumping out to me. We luckily have some of our most important cards like Death Focus, and I think we have all our superpowers. This goes to 1. It goes to 2 more because Sentinel is going to scheme. Low boost icons. 2 boost icons, that's really bad. Warn the others. So this hits 5, which means we slide the next card under here, and that goes to 2. All right, 2 encounter cards. First encounter card, Gauntlet Beam. This attaches to Sentinel. Gives +1 attack. Attack gets piercing and ranged, so it deals with toughness. We actually do have some toughness in the deck. I forgot about that. And ranged means it ignores retaliate. We have to spend 3 physical icons to get rid of that. That is not going to be super likely, as much as we do have a bunch of wild icons on our cards we can use for that. Uh-oh. Learning AI. It looks like we just spent some time on self-repair. Villain gains retaliate 1. I don't like that. And we have to spend 3 mentals to discard this +1 scheme. So, I mean, that could have been worse, but it also could have been better. All right, well, Fertile Ground on our turn. We draw Think Fast, and we go up 1 counter. And then we'll go do our Growth Spurt, so we're back up to 6, which is good. We went from 0 back up to 6. So looking at our hand, what can we get rid of? It's kind of tricky. If we play Rocket Raccoon, we have another ally slot. We'll end up drawing a card, which is not bad, with Nowhere. It makes us use our power on all of us, which seems kind of nice. Root Stomp seems less good here. We definitely need to get rid of the Retaliate at the minimum. So if we want to get rid of the Retaliate, that means we probably don't play Sense of Justice, Sonic Rifle, and it's a shame that we get rid of Unflappable because we don't have a strong economy. So I think if that's the case, we'll try and see what we can get off the top of the deck first, and ideally we keep the Unflappable. So we'll flip to Hero. Ooh, my stomach is rumbling. I'm hungry. What time is it? It's 4:30? Yeah, I think we'll finish this. For sure we will. So we'll play Power in All of Us to generate 2 resources for a basic card. Kind of like that, but different. Nope, not like that either. The Power in All of Us. Oh, it's in all of us, right? The Power of all of us? Where did I put it? The Power in all of us. Okay, that's the issue. So that's 1-2. We have to keep the rifle. I think we're going to throw out the Root Stomp. I like the damage. We'll throw out the Think Fast. No, we'll throw out the Root Stomp. 1, 2, 3. For Rocket. Rocket is a Guardian. So we're going to draw a card off of Nowhere. Hopefully it has a mental icon. It technically does. Technically a mental icon. Yo, Garrett, how's it going? Welcome to stream. How you doing? Good afternoon. Now, we don't really need to use Rocket's text here. Like, we can keep Rocket safe, but it's good that we are drawing our deck. And so that means I'll pitch 1, 2, 3 to get rid of Learning AI. Spending 2, 3 mental, so we don't have the Retaliate to worry about. And now we can start doing damage. This is our Justice Allies deck. All right, Groot can attack for 2. We can make it not that much bigger. I think we're going to throw out Think Fast just to play Unflappable, so we're not wasting cards. We are wasting the Death Focus, but Unflappable is our 1 splash because we're playing the Defender class. And it says if we block and take no damage, we draw a card, which is pretty good because our resource economy is not that phenomenal. There's no good reason to attack with Martin X here. There's no really good reason to do anything. We don't want to block with Martin X because of the you know, the whole zero tolerance thing. If that's the case, Gamora can discard for a card. I think Gamora is just going to attack for 2. Oh, we could have Gamora'd before we committed to anything because the card that we got could have had an icon in it that matters. That's fine. So that'll do 2 damage. We're down to 7. If we Gamora and hit an energy icon, that would be sick too. I don't think we do it though. Groot will attack for 2. Down to 5. Jubilee and Magneto, I don't think we need to. Mind you, Magneto says when defeating a Sentinel minion, as much as Sentinel is a Sentinel villain, so we don't get the ready. We could ready for 2 counters. I don't think we will, and I think we're now gonna be able to close the game off. Rocket won't attack for 1. Rocket gets overkill and +3 when attacking minions, and there's a lot of minions in the deck, as much as Magneto wants to attack the minions as well. All right, we'll pass. We are Groot. That's a bunch of toughnesses, and we can spread the toughness across all our allies, which is kind of nice. Power in all of us for some resources. Think fast for a confuse. I'm Groot to do up to 6 threat and a sonic rifle. So not the most easy to play hand. This goes to 1. Sentinel is attacking for 4 and a card with ranged and piercing. We'll definitely block with Groot. So we're blocking for 3. I'll spend a counter to make it block for 6. If we don't take damage, we draw a card. So we're blocking for 4. 6 on 4. Boost icon is you are stunned. Okay. If you're already stunned, take 2 damage. So that we take no damage. We block 6 on that. And because we block all the damage, Unflappable draws a card. We drew I'm Groot, which can deal a bunch of damage. Our encounter card is Under Fire. Uh-oh. So a bit of a Surge spike here. So Surge, reveal the top card of the deck. So 1 card becomes 2 cards. Nowhere is safe. Not that bad. So when revealed, place 1 pursued counter on pursued by the past. We've already drawn our minion or our nemesis, and then discard an upgrade or support you control. I think there's a chance the worst upgrade and support we control is Determined Defense. So I'm just going to discard this. This is the card that we got for doing the campaign stuff. That's fine. Speaking of that, there's 2 bad campaign cards in here. This is not one of them. Sentinel Mark II. So we have a lot of ways to deal with minions. When revealed, if Operation Zero Tolerance is in play, Sentinel Mark II gains Surge. Okay, beans. Relentless Robots. So this comes into play with 3 threat. It says, Sentinels were constructed solely for hunting mutants. They do not tire, they do not stop until they capture their target. Each player engaged with a Sentinel cannot thwart this scheme, and it has a hazard icon, so we want to get rid of that, which should be fine. Nowhere is safe, you mean? Eh? All right, so we can attack with Rocket into the Sentinel, gaining overkill. We can also attack with Magneto, and Magneto will take no damage. We need to get rid of this. If we get rid of this, we draw a card. Our hand can thwart for a bit with I Am Groot, but that's very expensive. This seems like a job for Eros and maybe Martinex to finish it off. That will draw a card. That seems like a good start here. I do think we want to get rid of the Gauntlet Beam, but 3 physicals is kind of difficult. So at least we have 2 physicals in our hand with I Am Groot into the power in all of us. And maybe we'll get down the Sonic Rifle and do the double confused flip down because the double confused flip down is pretty good. So Martinex and Eros will clear Relentless Robots for 3. Oh, the minion engaged with the Sentinel cannot thwart the scheme. Okay, so before we do that, I think we'll attack with Rocket. Rocket says when Rocket Raccoon attacks. Oh man, that hurt. You can give it +3 attack and overkill. So that means we're going to do 4 damage to the Sentinel. 2 of the damage is overkill damage. So the villain is down to 3. Sentinel is defeated. And now we can clear this. These are defeated. And we can draw a card. Because we cleared a side scheme. We draw into a Root Stomp, which actually can defeat Sentinel. Oh, but we're stunned. Yeah, we're stunned. So that's going to be tricky. Okay. We can use Gamora for more card draw. We also have 3 physicals now if we want to get rid of the Gauntlet Beam, which is kind of fine. We definitely want to be not taking damage. We have no allies to play. We could play the Sonic Rifle as a start. Maybe we don't get rid of the Gauntlet Beam. Is it that bad, honestly? We could play the Sonic Rifle. We could get rid of our stun by using 2 cards in Def Focus. I feel like we want to use Def Focus. But we can get rid of the Def Focus. I think the question is like, how are we going to defeat Sentinel? I think we're going to defeat with Magneto because it makes the most sense. So let's just see what happens when we defeat the Sentinel. I'm not sure what happens. So Magneto is going to attack for 3. Sentinel is going to be defeated. So we go to Sentinel 3. Sentinel 3 says, Stalwart. Okay, well, good that we did that. So we didn't actually play the Sonic Rifle. So none of our confused cards matter. Obviously, you can change your deck between scenarios, but yeah, Stalwart on this, and I think the next scenario also has Stalwart. It's not going to be good for a confused deck. The first player searches the deck for an abduction protocol. So we can search the discard pile or the deck. I'm going to try with the discard pile first because I'd like to draw abductions from the deck itself. Looks like we can't. So we have to find that, put it into play, deal each player face down counter card. Each player, not each other player. So the first player searches the counter deck and discard pile from abduction protocol. Side scheme, deal each player face down counter card. This is abduction protocol. It has a crisis on it and 4. When we clear this, it goes to the victory display and we get one of the set aside captives, which will be nice. All right. So can we clear that? Not that good. We're now back up at, what is it? 22 health. So villain set 22. So we have a bit more work to do. But once we defeat Sentinel 3, we win. Okay, so we can do 5 thwart, actually, if we do I am Groot. Because we have 5. That actually lines up okay. So I think we will do I am Groot. Because we no longer have to play the Sonic Rifle. So there's actually not that many good things in our hand. Our hand is actually mostly useless. We could consider we are Grooting to get toughnesses, but I like our statuses. I like our growth counters. So I'm Groot. This is the quiet one. Softly spoken. I am Groot. Move threat equal to the number of growth counters on Groot. So we've already done Skilled Investigator, so this will generate 1 for superpower. I'll get rid of Think Fast and the Sonic Rifle because they don't do anything. This removes 5 threat, so we'll clear abduction protocols. This says when the player defeats it, takes a random set of side captive, and let's do that. Oh, I clicked on something. Hold on. Hopefully the stream's still alive. We good? Yeah, we're good. Okay. So need to make sure I have this up. Okay. So there's 3 cards here. I'm going to shuffle them. This is 1, 2. This is 5, 6. 5, 6. We get Richter. Nice. Richter Aggression. No, Richter Project Wide Awake. So Richter comes into play 1, 1. Now Richter does take up our allies. So we do have another ally slot. It is an X-Men. Richter comes in with 3 health, attacks for 1, schemes for 1. But notably, after Richter attacks, deal 1 damage to the villain and each minion engaged with you. That technically does beat piercing, like one of the damages will go through. So I think we're going to attack with Richter here for sure. The question is whether we're going to use Gamora to do 2 damage and draw a card. Do we need to draw a card here? I think we actually can just get rid of the Gauntlet Beam with our hand. We also could just like play Root Stomp to get rid of the stunned and then hold on to our big damage card. That also might be reasonable. I'm kind of scared now that we're on 2 counters that flipping down is actually like kind of impossible. So I think we're just going to get rid of our stun stuff and take less damage. So we could, yeah, let's see if we'll get a card with Gamora. So Richter will attack for 1. Richter removes the toughness, and after Richter attacks, does 1 damage to basically everything. So that will put the villain to 21. We don't have an energy for Jubilee as much as we can give power in all of us for 2 damage, but we'll attack with Gamora. Does 2 damage, and Gamora says, after Gamora attacks or thwarts, discard cards from the top of your deck until you discard an event, and then add that card to your hand. Does Gamora have to survive the attack? After Gamora attacks or thwarts. I'm assuming she has to survive the attack. Right? Right? Because after she attacks, she'll be defeated. Wait, oh no, maybe the timing actually works that you do the after attacks first and then you do consequential. So maybe I was wrong about Magneto. Hold on. I think we can check. I actually have this technology to check. I just have to make sure the technology works. So if I'm not mistaken, I set this up. Yeah. Okay. So we can check the rules. So what is the attack schedule? The attack schedule is on page 5. So responsibilities happen before consequential damage. Yeah, I think you're wrong on Magneto, same as Tigray. Yeah, so it actually is good. So this is what it says. So this is where status, force, interrupts. So then the responses happen, the forced responses, then the normal responses, and then consequential. So consequential is the last thing that happens. So that means Magneto and Gamora, actually neither of them have to survive. Okay, that's actually really good to know. Okay, also that technology works, which is a good test run. So Gamora will be defeated, but first Gamora will discard cards. So we lost a genius. We lost the strength. We have an I am Groot. Okay, not great. It is a physical icon though, which actually lines up pretty well. So that means we can do 3 physical to get rid of the Gauntlet Beam and still use Jubilee for 2 damage. I think that's fine. So we'll discard 3. Oh, but we want to have this card. This card only does 5 damage. Ugh. Yeah, so we'll discard 3 to get rid of the beam. So don't have ranged and piercing, which was not even worth marking. We will exhaust Jubilee and throw out. It doesn't say printed, so this, when we'll discard it, it's an energy resource. Oh, actually, it may not be true, because when you discard a resource, when you spend a resource, You have to say what it is when you spend it. Can you discard a wild for this? Back to the rules. What's a wild resource? So where are wild? Wild? Because I think wild icons is a resource icon that can generate 1 energy physical or wild resources when spent. So we're not spending it. So I don't think that works either. Okay. Been foiled by the rules once again. So we can't spend it, so we can't do that. So that leaves us with this hand. So if that's the case, because what's the text on Gauntlet Beam? Gauntlet Beam says spend. Okay, so instead, I'm going to keep the Root Stomp in case an ally comes up or a minion comes up, and I'll spend this instead to get rid of the Gauntlet Beam, because you actually do spend the resources. If that's the case, I'll throw out We Are Groot, and then I'll hold the Root Stomp, and then we're just not going to use Jubilee. No one's going to thwart. We're fine. We'll pass. We're stunned. We have the technology. The work you put in the streaming side was really awesome. I'm glad you appreciate it. You do the work once, and then you get it forever, which feels really nice. Root Stomp, I'm Groot, clear the area. Fruition is good because we need counters, and we have another Root Stomp. So a bit of a heavy hand in terms of attacks. We're going to draw 1 more card here when we block. So this goes to 2. The Sentinel now attacks for 3 and a boost. We're going to block with Groot, so we're blocking only for 3. This is really difficult to get counters because every time that we can't flip down very easily. So I'm going to use Vine Shield to spend a counter to block for 3 more. So we're blocking for 6 on 3 and a card. This has 2 boost icons of the Sentinel Mark 5, so we take 5 damage, of which we take none. So Unflappable draws a card. We draw into Think Fast, which is not useful. Counter card, we're looking for a minion. It is, but it's not the best minion that we could get. This is Sentinel Mark 6, which has Quick Strike. It has 6 health. Oh, the next one. I think it is really cool that they each have health equal to their mark. So this one has Quick Strike, so it's just going to attack us because we're in hero mode. That means we're going to lose 2 growth counters, and things just get sadder and sadder and sadder. Yeah, we're just going to take it. We'll go down to 2 growth counters. Okay. It's too late to ready ourselves with the Lashing Vines. I don't think we would have. We are stunned, so we can play multiple Root Stomps to get our counters back, and I think we have to. Yeah, I think we do have to. We have energy in our hand, so we can do 1 damage to this. So Richter is going to attack for 1, so we waste the least amount of damage. And Richter will attack Sentinel. That means the Sentinel will take 1 damage. And then Richter's text says that after Richter attacks, you do 1 damage to everything engaged with you. So that means this goes down to 1, and the villain takes 1 more. So we're down to 17. That means we can do Deft Focus plus, I don't know, I'm Groot to do Root Stomp. That just gets stunned. That means we can do, oh, if we're playing Fruition, we can't do Jubilee. That's fine. So we'll pitch 2 more for Root Stomp. This Root Stomp will go through, and it'll do give us 1 growth counter because it defeats something, doing 5 damage. We lose a bit of Magneto value, but that's okay. We lose a bit of Rocket Raccoon value. That's okay. We'll play Fruition to get 2 counters, which I think is more important. And then here we have to make whatever we can with our board. We could flip down and get the last card underneath Operation Zero Tolerance, which will allow us to Fertile Grounds and go up to 8 counters. I think I'd only do that if I didn't have all the copies of I Am Groot in the bin, because these are the ones that really want counters to finish the game. But unfortunately, they're both in the bin right now. I think we can Magneto for 3 damage just to push us closer towards that. I don't think we have a lot of damage to finish the game, but now knowing how Magneto works, that's good. So we're down to 14. Rocket Raccoon for 1 seems like a waste. We're not going to deck out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so we'll wait for another minion. And we could thwart for 2. Yeah, let's just safety thwart for 2. And pass. Draw up. What's cooking? Supernaut. We're playing Groot. Oh, nice to get Drax. It's like not that exciting, I'll be honest. But it's working. The issue is now we're playing against Stalwart, which we should have seen coming, and we're a deck with a lot of Confuse in it, and so none of that stuff lines up really well. Drax is going to be good. 3 damage a turn is really good into we're trying to close the game out. Last card Energy, that's nice. That means we can draw off of nowhere, no problem, and push ourselves forward. This will go to 1. Sentinel's attacking for 3 in a card. We'll block with Groot. We'll use our defense using one of our counters, so we're blocking for 6. That is going to be 3 in a card. That is 5 damage, so we take no damage. We draw with Unflappable, which I forgot to ready. We draw into Clear the Area. We have 1 card left in our deck, so we are going to deck out. We want to defeat all our allies, so they're back into our deck. Our encounter card is targeted for elimination. Okay, this is going to be ugly too. This card is attached to us. It says, while you're engaged with the Sentinel minion, you cannot change form, and you can only exhaust your identity to discard this card. So we can do that in villain mode, and we can do it in alter ego mode. It's not an alter ego ability, but you do need to get rid of this. There's a bunch of cards that have surge or do worse things for you if this is attached for you, and there's a bunch of cards that just attach this to you, because there's only one in the deck, I think. But it's a really cool thematic piece. Now here I just gonna think we're gonna throw our proverbial load. The issue is if we draw with nowhere, we deck out. So we should make sure that we're doing this in the right order. So we should play all the cards we want to play to put them back into the deck and go from there. So if that's the case, we will. Quasar is 2 damage actually. Quasar's not bad. We just need damage. And Quasar clears Night of the Sentinels. Yeah, that's pretty good. So we're definitely gonna play some minions. So what do we want back in the deck? If we play 3 for Drax, we'll draw a card, and then we can play 3 for Quasar. I want to play the Fruition, but it might be a bit too little too late. The theming of Groot versus Sentinel is really funny. We have a very strong thematic Guardian deck, and then we're just playing against the X-Men stuff, which is just kind of silly, but it's a thing you can do in this game. So that's the issue. This is 3, and then this is 3, with the card that we draw from nowhere, which means we can't play Fruition. I'm assuming we just can't play Fruition. I can't check what this card is because we don't actually have perfect information because there's 2 cards removed from the game that we don't know what they are. I think we should have been able to tell what one of them are. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's a double resource, which is kind of cool. I think we just play all the allies and we just send the damage. So first we'll attack with Richter. Richter functionally does 2 damage. So the villain is down to 12. We'll attack with Rocket, which does just 1 damage. That's fine. Villain's down to 11. We're defeating these so that they're in our discard pin so that we can get them back when we're just going to shuffle our deck. I think it's most important we play Quasar first, I guess. We'll play Quasar first. So we'll put 1, 2, 3 for Quasar. Justice. When Quasar comes into play, after Quasar enters play, remove 1 threat from each scheme into play, which is not bad. A bit of consequential thwarting. But notably, Quasar is a Guardian. So after Nowhere says, after you exhaust this, when you play a Guardian, draw a card. Oh yeah, actually, do I want these cards in the bin faster than those cards? Oh, probably. I'd actually think I would want to draw Fruition sooner than later. So if that's the case, when I pitched for Quasar, I'll pitch Energy and Fruition because I want those sooner back. Because as soon as you empty your deck, when we draw this card, which is Float Like a Butterfly, which is totally useless, we shuffle our deck and give us our encounter card. So actually, like, doing the order is important. I'm not sure the order, if the, like, when you pitch cards to pay the cost, and then the card you play on its own draws, when do those resources hit the bin? Do they hit right away or do they go into a limbo space until the card's resolved? I think they go straight into the bin. Big tree versus much bigger robot. Nature versus metal. Okay, our deck is back. So now we have 3 resources. We can play Drax. Yeah, I guess we're gonna play Drax. This is Drax. Drax is very simple-minded, but the one thing he does do is pretty good for what we want to do now. Comes in with 4 health, can only attack 1 thing, but boy is he good at attacking that 1 thing. They use our Bowstun Exhaust and do 5 damage. So Sentinel is down to 6. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We're just short. We almost could get there. We're just slightly short on damage. If we attack with Magneto, Magneto's defeated. We don't want Magneto to be defeated because I do think victory -1 feels emotionally bad. But we don't need to do that because it doesn't really change anything. And that's it. We're just ready. We're in striking distance. That's for sure. Draw up Martin X. Oh, did we lose our like unique card? Maybe not. Martin X is good and cheap. Think Fast doesn't do anything. Rocket Raccoon is back. Richter is back. And we have Gamora. So we draw too many allies. We can at least pay... I think we can play 2 of these because Martin X costs 2, draws a card, Richter costs 2. And that might be enough to close the game off. This goes to 1. Sentinel's attacking for 3 and a card. We'll block with Groot. We'll use a Vine counter to put us up here. I'm also going to use 2 Vine counters to ready Groot. So Groot is ready, but blocking for 6. Why am I doing that? Because we have no use for Vine counters on the last turn of the game. So 3 and a card plus 2. Abduction Protocols. We take no damage. We draw with Unflappable. And then we got a resource. That's really sick. We go through 2 encounter cards. So first encounter card is Fan the Flames. This is totally fine. Fan the Flames is from our Nemesis set, and it just says take 2 indirect damage. We don't want to take the direct damage because it removes our counters. So that's fine, actually. We'll lose a counter, and then we'll take 1 damage ourselves. So we're down to 9. In theory, we could have assigned it to Quasar or Drax, which doesn't actually matter because the game's going to be over here, but we have no use of a 1 counter In theory, we could draw the thing that says spend 1 counter to get +2 attack, but it's fine. We have a Sentinel Mark 6. Sentinel Mark 6. This has Quick Strike, so it's going to attack us for 2 damage. We're just going to take it. We'll take 2 damage. We're down to 7. So we're actually taking some damage here. And this is back to us. All we have to do is defeat Sentinel. They both have 6 health. If I'm not mistaken, we can do all of this. So this might be a totally reasonable time for our friend Rocket Raccoon to do some overkill damage. This doesn't have guard, so we can just ignore this and go straight to Sentinel Mark 3. I think we will do that. So we'll spend 2 + 1 on Gamora, drawing a card from nowhere. That's another double. That's amazing. Gamora is going to attack the big Sentinel for 2 damage. After Gamora attacks, you can discard until you draw an event. I'm just going to remove this from the game, so it'll make sorting easier. Lost a genius, get a think fast. That's fine. Sentinel's on 2. So we're going to just attack with Quasar for 2. Can we clean the whole board up? I think we can. Yeah, I think we should clean the whole board up. Oh, we should have attacked with Drax first. So hold on, we'll undo that. So we'll attack with Drax instead. So the villain is on 1 health. I don't think some scenarios care about, like, if there are no minions on board, do something good. So I'll just try and clean this up. So we'll spend 1, 2, 3 with Rocket. Rocket comes in. Rocket Raccoon attacks for 4 with overkill if you're attacking a minion. So we're going to spend an energy resource with Jubilee to do 2 damage here. Then we will simply attack with Rocket, which does 4 damage, which defeats a Sentinel. And then, because it makes sense, we'll attack with Groot. And that'll be that. -1. Nice. So we rescued, I believe, what is it, 2 allies? We rescued Richter and... Oh, no. Oh, Wolfsbane is here. So the 2 cards that we lost, which don't actually have any like campaign mechanics, we'll get these back. We lost Clear the Area and Under Surveillance. That is the best card we could lose. This thing does nothing in the scenario. Clear the Area is a card we definitely enjoy, but we got rid of all the schemes relatively quickly and they just didn't seem to come back. That's that. That is Sentinel. We got to 2 of the 4. Mind you, once you hit 4, you lose. So we were actually relatively close to the end. Unfortunately, we didn't get any of the future pass cards out of the deck, so they're still waiting for us. And the longer you take to get these out of the deck, the worse it is for you. So we have the Nano Sentinel tech, and then the other one we have is Bastion, and Bastion is relatively terrifying because Bastion can only take, oh no, that's the other one, but Bastion has 10 health, toughness, villainous, which means when it activates, it also draws a counter card. It is a Sentinel, which is kind of cool because there's some cards that care about attacking Sentinels like Magneto, but both of these cards now being in the deck starting for the next scenario and every scenario after that is not a great spot to be in. If you ever attach this to that and give it +4 health, like, oh no, this actually attaches to your nemesis, which is Fernax. Being a Sentinel is also kind of scary. Cool. That's that. It's going okay. I think even the biggest issue is that our deck is like so in onto like the flipping down with the thwarting, or sorry, with the confusing to do our growth stuff, and it just doesn't work here because the Sentinel is stalwart. If I'm not mistaken, Master Mold is the next scenario, and I think Master Mold is always just stalwart. So a bunch of our cards we definitely should take out from the deck and just rebuild it going into Master Mold. I think inherently like Groot is a bit sleepy, unfortunately. It does its thing. It was one of the earlier designs, but like I think one of the more interesting things you can do potentially is play protection and then just have all the benefits for blocking without taking damage, and then you don't have to worry about that. You still want to have your growth counters, but like at the end of the day, it's really hard to take damage when you have the growth counters and you don't need them. As much as I do think you want them, because you have 2 cards in your deck that say do 10 damage for 2, which is like unheard of in the game. That's really, really good. These I Am Groots. I kind of wish that we could play something like Mutant Education, but I'm pretty sure you can't because of the first word in that name. Yeah, but being able to go into Alter Ego and shuffle your cards back is really, really important. It's just like such a bummer when you mulligan and you draw into either your I Am Groots on your opening hand, because they are not worth playing when they do 2 damage. Just a bit clumsy, but you can get there for sure. I have played through all of the Guardians of the Galaxy box on standard with Groot alongside Rocket, and it's like totally doable, but that's Groot. That takes us to just about 5 o'clock. It's 4:55, so we're going to call it there. I have some other video stuff to do tonight, so I want to make sure not to wear my voice out. I'm going to be doing some tier list stuff with Jeff. Excited to record that. We do that every year for Netrunner, so that'll be up on the other channel for sure. We'll get more video content up on this channel. I'm not sure how soon, maybe relatively soon. I might have some time this weekend to record some gameplay. I'm going to be working on, I believe it's Cable. We're starting with Protection Cable, and we're going to be playing against Mutant Genesis, which is not Mutant Genesis, Sinister Motives, which is a really fun campaign box on Expert. I think that's going to be a good time. And so that will be up. We're still doing live streams here again every Friday at it starts around, I think 2 o'clock is what we're trying to. Sometimes it's a bit around there. So if you want to hit the subscribe button, you'll know when we go live here on the channel. You hit the notification. That's mostly it. Hopefully if you're watching this either live or in the VOD, hopefully you have a good weekend. Again, I know it is Con of Heroes, the Marvel Champions community, like big meetup in the Game Center in Minnesota. If you're there, hopefully you had a great time if you're watching this in the future, and maybe you'll join us for another stream. Otherwise, everyone, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll be back in just a week. Take care. Thanks for watching. Ciao.